Okay, namaste everyone. So finally we are back together with the Ashwini Nakshtara video. We'll begin with prayer from Evji. Evji, go ahead, please lead the session with a prayer.
वाक्तेर्ये च विद्महे प्रणचिपत्नी च धीमहि तन्नो वाणी प्रचोदयात्। त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ॐ नमः शिवाय। Thank you.
Great, over to you now, Aditya. So you can begin the session actually.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
So
you
as
can.
usual, I always have my slides here. Play from the. I hope you can see my slides, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are finished. Revati started with Ashwini now. Happy New Year, everyone. 2023. I know it's more than what, almost 38, 39 days of New Year, but you know. Okay, starting with Ashwini. What is Ashwini? Ashwini, as we know, comes under the sign Aries, is a natural first house of the Kalpurusha's chart. And all the padas, all the 4 padas of Ashwini Nakshatra, the first, second, third, and fourth pada are all in the Aries constellation. So definitely when we talk about Ashwini, the first house themes will become prominent. And back to the basics, what is first house represent in the chart? Something about physical body, health, forehead, the brain, also about thoughts, general interest, etc. One has to see the first house of person's interest. Now, whenever questions come regarding career, about job, every time we get questions like that, I always try to, okay, you can see 10th house, you can see what are the signs in the 10th house, planets in the 10th house, lords of the 10th house, aspects of the 10th house. But I always pay attention also to the first house, because that shows a person's interest. That shows the natural ability of the person. So first house also stands very important. I don't know whether how many of astrologers do that, but I personally feel whenever we want to give a consultation about what career you should go, gauge a person's interest about what that person's thoughts, interest, plan of action, or line of thoughts go into it. That will be very helpful to decide his or her career. So in a way, to choose a career, first house is very important too. I feel that. I don't know, some of may agree with me, some of may not, but I've seen a very great alignment of person's interest with the first house. And if you suggest some career by looking at the first house, planets in the first house, aspects on the first house, along with 10th house, that gives a very nice prediction of a person's karma, to what he or she has to execute. So I pay attention to that too for the first house. Okay. So these things, so Ashwini will somehow place this, because this nakshatra falls in the first house, this themes of body, health, and all will come into picture. We will see how it will be in the subsequent slides, but these are some of the general aspects of Ashwini. The symbol of Ashwini is horse head, Okay, again, astronomy guy, so I cannot resist showing our great, beautiful pictures of sky. Now, Ashwini comes from the word Ashwin, or the twins, basically. They are the twins. Even in the constellation, when you see, this is the Aries constellation. There are 2 bright stars in that. Again, the play of twins come, because also you see 2 bright stars in that. One is Alpha Aries, which is also called Hamal in medieval Muslim, medieval Islamic astrology. Then there's another star which is a Beta, which is also called a Sheraton. And if you see the position of Hamal and Sheraton, it is 13 degree 49 minutes. Hamal, which you may say that it slightly comes in the border of Ashwini and Bharani. Okay, and Beta, which is a Sheraton, falls at 10 degree 7 minutes. And note, these positions are all the sidereal positions. Okay, there is one more star, Mesartem here, which is not that bright as compared to these two, but this is also third star. All the three stars form this Ashwini constellation. And this one, here there's also another bright star, that is 41 Ariatis, which we will talk next time, because that's the Yogatara of Bharani, which we will not talk now, but for the next time. But these two stars are forming the main two stars of Ashwini, and is the head of the horse. It represents the head of the horse. Remember, this is your Pisces constellation. This is your Pisces, and this is your two stars of Ashwini. Okay, Hamal and Sheraton are the two bright stars. So even the mythological story will say about twins, and even here in the sky you see two twin stars. Lot of emphasis on Ashwini, because we know that precision of Earth's axis happens, and 72 degrees, 72 years for 1 degree. So if you go back like that, we know right now the vernal equinox is at Uttar Bhadrapada Nakshatra, around Pisces 6 degrees. So if you go around this year, 700 BCE to 300 AD, that is the period when Yogatara or when the vernal equinox was in Ashwini Nakshatra. Okay, during this period. About, you can say about 2000 years back. Probably this is the period when who was born? Christ was born. This is the period when Buddha was born. This is the period when Vardhaman Mahavir was born. Christianity, Jainism, Buddhism, all was coming during that time. Somehow, you know, when vernal equinox was in the Yogatara of not Yogatara, but in the Ashwini Nakshatra, around 2000 years back, three great religions came into, not maybe you cannot say Christianity, but at least Jesus Christ, we can say he was born during that time, and the spread of Christianity and all that happened along with Buddhism and Jainism. Okay, fine. So we see a lot of emphasis, even the Rigveda hymns and all about Ashwini. Now this is what it is. You can see here all the Yogatara. These are the three stars. This is the Hamal, this is the Sheraton, this is the Mesatin, the three stars of Ashwini. This, as I told you, we will learn next time. This is nothing but about Bharani. And then you can see a bunch of stars here, which is Kritika. Of course, we are not going to talk about Bharani and Kritika, but I just want to show how the Aries constellation looks in the sky and what is the position of Ashwini Nakshatra, Bharani Nakshatra, and Kritika Nakshatra in the sky. How it is. Okay, fine. Now again, this is a small riddle. Can you imagine when was this photo taken? Which month was this photo taken? Or is it dawn or dusk time? And why?
Well, I think definitely dusk.
Definitely dusk. Now, why you say dusk? Answer is correct. It is dusk time.
Yeah, well, because of the sun is setting, right?
Sun is, but why can't sun be rising?
Yeah, true. I think, yeah, well, sun sets in the east or something, probably. Not sure.
Is it in the month of November or December this was taken?
Now, let's see this. Let's see this. Maybe if this is Ashwini, maybe probably, as you said, if it is probably in the month of sun is just coming here. We don't know whether it is setting sun or whether we don't know it is rising sun. If it is rising sun, let's say, then this has to be what? Taurus sign?
Right.
Must be, actually Taurus would be the other way. It must be
Yeah.
Meena Rashi.
Pisces.
Yeah, coming to both.
Yeah, so it must be Meena Rashi.
Correct. Coming to both. If it was a rising sun, if it was a dawn time, then this is like, here you see, here it is Aries, here it is Kritika, correct? Yeah. So there means here it will be your Taurus, correct?
Right.
Because you are going Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, and here it will be Rohini. So as you go up, you have Taurus. So this is Taurus. This has to be Aries. So this has to be Pisces.
Right.
So if you are correct, this has to be Pisces. Sun is in Pisces. So this is a dusk time. Sun has already set. Pisces has set. Ashwini will set, and then Kritika will set. Then Taurus will set. So this is definitely a dusk time, and Sun is in Pisces. Now note, when the Sun is in Pisces during the month of March and March.
Right.
So it's a March time, evening of March time. Okay, chocolates for you, candies for you, EG.
Laddus, laddu baba.
Okay, laddus for you. So definitely, so it was a nice astronomy teaser, to find. Anyway, coming back to our topics. Okay, we had enough of March time, and it's a dusk time. Okay, March month and dusk. Okay, fine. These are the Yogata. Here you can see the Pleiades constellation or the Kritika, and here is your Bharani. Clear, Dr. Pai? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's see some stories of Ashwini Kumaras. Maybe Dr. Pai can also, or any one of you can say. So it is a story goes, and there are a lot of astronomical secrets here, which I think it is worth pointing. And I will mention that how it is. And so the story goes that, of course, Sun has his wife named Sanjana, or also called as Sandhya. Now remember, Sanjana's father is Vishwakarma. So Vishwakarma becomes the father-in-law of Sun, actually. Okay, and she was living with Sun, but it is said that she was unable to bear the heat of the Sun. So what she does is, Sanjana leaves her husband, Surya, but she makes a clone of her, which is called as Chaya. I think this is the first cloning episode which probably comes into the picture. Maybe these people know how to do clone and all, I guess. So she made a clone of her called as Chaya, and Sanjana leaves. Chaya lives with our Mr. Sun, and produces a child named as Shani. So Shani becomes the first child of the Sun. He's the eldest child. And then what happened is, however, Sun comes to know later, and that Sanjana has left. She has produced a clone, and Sanjana also tells Vishwakarma that she has left her husband. Vishwakarma says, no, that's not correct. You need to go back. And there is also a problem happens between Shani and no, it was later actually. And then Sanjana, I think Sanjana comes back to Sun. And now again from Sanjana and Sun, there are 3 children born, Yama, Yamuna, and Ashwin Kumar is also born.
Sun goes to Vishwakarma, then finally discovers that Sanjana is on Earth in Buloka. Then he comes down to Buloka, where Sanjana is roaming as a mare, the female was, and then he mates with her, and Ashwin Kumars are born from the nostrils of Sanjana, actually. Yeah.
Correct.
Yes,
correct,
guys,
Dr. Pai?
actually she's hiding as a horse from him. That's how they're born. She doesn't want to come back.
Yeah. So, and basically what happens is, when Sanjana mentions her problem with Sun, Vishwakarma basically cuts down the luminous or the brightness of Sun, and makes into some, because he's an architecture, he makes into the disc of Sudarshan Chakra of Vishnu and all. I think he makes some new weapons for the god from the luminosity. Okay. Now, it's a very interesting fact that even in astronomy, we all know that, now this is an astronomical fact, that when the Sun was first born, he was very bright, it seems. This is well known in among scientific community. It was very bright, and later what happened, as Sun progresses, the brightness got reduced. Okay. Is it this story, what they are saying is very similar to what we astronomers know? Because when you are in a protostar phase, it has got really very high luminosity, and the luminosity of Sun then decreases. Exactly matches with this story of what Vishwakarma did to Sun's bright. It says that Vishwakarma came and cut off the brightness, but that we know in the astronomical world. And of course, there are some theories given to it, how the brightness of star and all changes and all that is known. But this is what the story is. I don't know how true it is, but it's just a very nice correlation there, that Vishwakarma cut off the Sun's light, And we know that sun's luminosity has been reduced from what it was born. Isn't that fascinating? I feel it really fascinating that this story can produce that. And of course, what happens is there is a rift between Shani and Sanjana, and Shani kicks Sanjana, and Sanjana also curses Shani, and Shani gets lame basically.
Yeah, so Yama, oh, Shani has a rift. I think Yama has a rift with Sanjana, right? Yama like kicks Sanjana's stomach, and then Yama gets cursed by Sanjana as well.
No, it was also Shani. I heard
really?
the story
Oh,
somewhere.
great. So
Yeah,
Shani
I
also.
heard Shani. Yeah,
Okay, great. Good for Shani.
I don't
Yeah.
know. And that's why Shani lames. That's what I don't know. There are versions there possible, you know, but that's what I heard. And that's how son feels that how can a mother curse her own child, like something like, and then he comes to know. There's some story, something like like that. But the main fact, what I wanted to say is how Ashwin Kumars were born, basically from the nostrils of that horse. So again, you can see that horse thing is coming to be important. I don't know, maybe Dr. Pai, you know the story, you can say the story maybe in a detail. Please feel free to interrupt and then say the entire story.
Guys, just here before we move on, just because you're talking about them being born through the two nostrils, I just want to remind everyone listening and us that many times these stories are really, really profound. And like you're pointing out with Vishwakarmaji making the sun less bright, there's also many secrets, Guya Vidya, hidden in these. So one of the interesting things happening here is we all know that Agni eats life, right? Agni eats everything. He consumes life, actually. He gives life, but he also consumes it. And as you know, Surya becomes Nicha in Swati, the sign of Vayu, because he consumes Vayu, consumes the prana. So it's actually a really destructive thing there going on for health. Not, please, anyone born with this, please don't think your health is going to be hurt. That is not what that means. But they're telling a story here. And he's Ucha in Ashwini. Now, what's interesting is the two nostrils. We have things, if you look at all the yogic techniques with breathing, and we have the solar and lunar channel. Okay, so the pranayama, the measurement of breath, the control of breath, you have Shani, who measures everything, being Ucha and the sign of Vayu. So here you do have Surya and Shani changing places, one of them consuming everything in a minute. Surya would consume everything. The other one measuring it and giving it Ayush, or longevity. So that's something for people to contemplate if they're studying yogic sciences, this relationship between Surya, Shani, and the whole other thing with Surya, just quickly, before we move from your slides here, all of his children are twins. Now, if you look at cell mitosis, the one produces the many. Is another Guya Vidya, is another very secret. Really contemplate this universe, the rules. Everything's under some kind of rule, but it's always starting with one that splits into two. So Surya is that chemistry. So the Ashwins being the two, and specifically the nostrils, this should be looked at deeply because there's some hidden secret. There's some reason for this. And there's some reason that sun is Ucha in Ashwini, not because the sun does better, not because it's stronger, not because a lot of these traditional rules, you'll see a lot of really good suns in Tularashi. So this has nothing to do with personality, guys, nothing. There's something deeper here with Surya being in Ashwini and being Ucha, and specifically is at 10 degrees. So you need to think of the Pada as well, which is going to end up in the third, which is Mithuna Rashi, which is another twin. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to say that before we move on, because that's a
Good,
deeper
good.
aspect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's good. Yeah, and that's a good point you mentioned, EG, because Yama, Yamuna are also twins. Ashwin Kumars are also twins, So for Sun's family, all twins are being born.
Something to do with chemistry, the heat, the
Exactly.
splitting. Yeah.
Exactly. So with this, we told that story. What all this with that story, what you can think? We talked about horse becomes important because Sanjana was an horse. From nostrils. So these people can be good ENT, ear, nose, throat, good ENT surgeons, or good maybe something like ENT. As I said, Ashwini Nakshatra falls on the first house related to health. And Ashwin Kumars are known as the physicians of the gods. They are the doctors for the gods. So medicine, health, Sanjana Chaya also, it's Sandhya, it's basically the dawn. There was the dawn of the early part when the sunrise before. That part is ruled by Ashwin Kumaras. Somewhere biological sciences, a bend towards biological sciences, an interest in towards biological sciences, life sciences can be there for Ashwini. Since they are doctors, they are growing, herbs basically. So herbal medicines, gardening, vegetation, all that becomes important for Ashwini Nakshatra people. Horse is what? Horse is for fast and furious. And remember, even in Mahabharata, Nakul and Sahadeva, because we know all the Pandavas were basically their fathers had, for example, Yudhishthira's father was Dharmaraj. Bhima's father was Vayudev, and Arjun's father was Indra. Similarly, Nakul and Sahadev were the children of Ashwins. Nakul, I think out of that, Sahadev was a very good astrologer too, if you know. Nakula was, very good looking, very handsome person and all. And remember,
Sahadev excuse me, Sahadev was so intelligent, even Sri Krishna asked him to hide some of it. So
exactly.
there's emphasis on intelligence. Yeah.
Exactly. Because I think that episode happened when Duryodhan came and asked Samurth to start for the war, to have a precise timing to win the war. And so he told, and the Krishna was like, why did you tell them? Because even though they're asking against you, basically. They said, no, I'm an astrologer, and then still I have to say the truth. So Sahadev was a very great astrologer of that time. And then again, Krishna has to intervene and all that's a different story. But again, somehow, they are all coming from Sun's family. Sun's students, the student of Suns are always great astrologers somewhere, Even, other than who is a student of Sun? One more, there's one famous student of Sun God.
Hanuman, right?
Hanuman. Hanuman was also a great astrologer. Okay.
Was Mayasur?
Mayasur, I don't know about Mayasur, but Hanuman I know. Mayasur can be.
Mayasur, I
Hanuman,
believe is Tapas. I believe so, guys. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe his Tapas was to Surya.
I don't
For
know that. I need to read. Yeah, I need to read those. But yeah, Hanuman was definitely a student of. And that's what he said, go and protect Sugriv because he's my son. And just so that's why Hanuman was protector for Sugriv. Of course, we will also talk about Chavana Rishi, and I think maybe in the later part we can discuss about Chavana Rishi, Chavanprash and all those things. What is Chavanprash? To have that vigor, vitality and all those things, having great intellect. Even nowadays we sell Dotker, correct? Chavanprash was a great time. I don't know, I like the taste because it was sweet when I was young. But it's used for good intellect and all. So there's a whole story. Maybe Dr. Pai, when he comes, he can tell the story of Chavana Rishi. But remember, there's a story that goes, they were denied the nectar of immortality. So they were always behind to get those Amrit, but the higher gods denied them, like Indra and others. So Ashwini people, what does that story tells you is that they can be denied of their rights in the society, in the job, in the work environment. They may not be given what they are, what they work for, that their true efforts would not be recognized to some extent. And also the Ashwini Nakshatra or Ashwin Kumars are known for honey, making herbs out of honey. So apiculture, if you know what is apiculture, is nothing but art of keeping bees and all. So even that can be, remember why apiculture I am saying. it's like no sting of honeybee. We all know it's like Ketu. And what is the planetary lord of Ashwini Nakshatra? Ketu. And what does bees do? You know, when you go and just throw a stone at the beehive, and then you will come to know. I don't know how many of you have got bee sting of bee. I have got many times during childhood, man. I don't know whether you remember, there used to be a sensor tube. You remember? Dr. Pai may remember, sensor tube, the red color. After that, bee sting every time I have to apply. I don't know. I never did anything to bees. I don't know why they used to come and always, you know, sting me. I don't know why.
Yeah, maybe
Anyway.
they like you a lot, you know.
Then they should kiss me, not bite me, you know. Anyway. So Ashwini Nakshatra, the star is also called as a star of transport. Remember, they are horsemen. They are moving. They are going. So star of transport. Foundation above is creatures to be healed. So again, there's a healing coming into the picture. Foundation below, healing therapies. Desire is the ability to hear and not to be deaf. Again, you see, deaf. Now nose came, now ears are coming. That's why I say ENT. Ears and nose now. Shakti is a power, Shidra Vyapani Shakti, power to quickly attain things or one's objective. A result of Shakti, basis, and desire is nothing but to create world free of diseases. Again, treatment of diseases. Okay. Purusharth is Dharma, Dev Gana, Trimurti is Brahma, animal is Melos, bird is Swan. Anyway, just giving some description of nakshatras. Again, putting all those, so they can be doctors, they can be physicians, they can be, because Ashwini is also a head, so rules your brain surgeon. If Dr. Pai may say the story of Chavana Rishi later, but if they're also good related to eyes, you know, ophthalmology again can be related to Ashwini Nakshatra. We did discuss about garden, vegetation, Ayurvedic practitioner, horseman. Now today's there people don't keep horse, they keep cars. So it's automobile, cars. They are fast and furious, so probably work related to some urgent service. Ambulance. Ambulance is what, you know, urgent service again. As I said, they were denied of higher for their effort, their rights. So suffers from their higher officials. Signs of keeping bee, apiculturist. Again, pair of twins, pair groups, because again, Ashwini Nakshatra twins. They like to play pranks. They are youthful and cheerful. So youth, cheerful, handsomeness, all those things can come into the picture. And they want to help because helping nature, they make medicine, they make want to create world free of diseases and all. So it's a helping nature of Ashwini Nakshatra can be also seen. Now, this is all stories of in Hinduism, but if you go to stories in other religions too, we see this Ashwini Nakshatra in most of the religions, and there's always this ram's head is very common. In Egyptian, it is Amon-Ra, the sun god, man with ram's head, and represented fertility and creativity. So that Aries constellation is related to ram's head, which also represent fertility and creativity. Again, fertile and creativeness. Again, associated qualities of with that. In Hellenistic astrology, there is a story, Phrixus and Heli. Okay, Heli is nothing but children of King Athamas and Nephili. Phrixus and Heli are both kids of King Athamas and Nephili. Now, this king has got two wives. One is Nephili, other is Ino, which is the second wife of the King Athamas. She is jealous of these two children who are from the first wife, and she wants to kill them. So she creates famine and in the region, and she says to the king, if you want to get rid of famine, you need to kill or sacrifice your son Phrixus. And then king was ready to sacrifice Phrixus, but then their mother Nephili had some contacts with the other higher officials, and then she says she sends a ram, basically a golden ram comes and then rescues Phrixus and Heli. That ram carries Phrixus and Heli and puts them in the safe place. So that's the story. But you see that golden ram coming into the picture, and that's what the Aries is actually, a golden ram. That's what they say. In medieval Muslim astronomers, again this constellation is denoted as ram. In 1612, Petrus Placinus gave this constellation name that it represents like a bee. Again, you see the concept of bee came from somewhere in between. Again, as I said, the bee is nothing but Ketu. And this is a Ketu rule nakshatra. So 1612, this Petrus Placinus, he said that this constellation represents like bee. In 1624, another came as wasp. See, bees, wasp, they are all basically what? It's insects. Insects are ruled by Ketu again. Not only in those, even in Chinese astronomy, they call this as Lao, this constellation, which represents bond or lasso or sickle. And this was a time when it was, for harvest and cattle sacrifice they were doing when the position of the sun was in this constellation and all. In Hebrew astronomy, this constellation was called as Tale, lamb of the world. Again, lamb, not ram, but now lamb. Peruvian astronomy, they call, when the moon was here, they call it as market moon. So this was market moon. I mean, that means it was something significant when the position of moon should be here and the sun should be, means opposite to it. It's a harvest festival for them, because then they will market, you sell your things to the market. So it denotes something like for business. Remember, what is opposite of the Ashwini? The 7th house falls, business. Syrians, they used to call Amru, Turks used to call this constellation. So in all the religion you go, they have this constellation identified. In Rigved also, this is called sometimes as Aja or sometimes it's called Mesha. And there are 50 verses dedicated to this. So in short, this constellation was very famous all over and well known. And most of them is always associated this with ram or lamb, the ram, lamb, horse. So those were the things. Now remember, Aja means also, I think Aja means goat, correct? Dr. Pai. Aja means also goat.
Yes, that's correct. Aja means goat.
Yeah. Aja means goat. So even Rigveda it is Aja. So again, Aja is what? Same as ram or lamb, almost same family at least. The tree associated with nakshatra is poison tree. What are the uses of this poison tree? You can treat cancer and heart diseases. Lot of digestive tract diseases can be treated. It can also treat migraine and headaches. Again, Ashwini Nakshatra is associated with head. Ashwini is the head region. It can treat anemia, blood vessel disorder. Again, blood is again Mars. Remember where this Ashwini Nakshatra falls in Aries. Aries is connected to Mars. Mars is connected to blood. It says it's used also for erectile dysfunction, which is again fertility, coming into the picture. Appetite stimulant, so it's for health wise. They say it's also has got some unsafe chemicals, which contains the chemicals such as Nox vomica, which is also a rat poison. So don't go and consume poison nut tree. The name itself is poison, Poison is something, some poison may be there. But with other chemicals mixed into it, it can be, that can be very useful for some treatment of some diseases. It consists of they've analyzed that and then found that they have this chemical Nox vomica present in that tree. What are the nakshatra padas that falls into Ashwini? 4 padas. So the first pada is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. Of course, when this is my every time doing the Rashi Lord, the Rashi is Ashwini, Aries sign. So the Lord is Mars. So this is Rashi Lord is Mars. The Nakshatra Lord is Ashwini. So the Nakshatra Lord is Ketu. We know Ketu is the Lord of Ashwini. The first pada falls in Aries. So the Lord becomes Mars. The second pada falls in Taurus. So Lord becomes Venus. The third pada falls in Gemini. So the planetary Lord is Mercury. The fourth pada falls in Cancer. The planetary Lord is Moon. So you can see what are the major planets here. It's a Mars and the Ketu. So Mars and Ketu energy is very dominant in this Ashwini Nakshatra. What is Mars and Ketu? Mars denotes courage, dynamism, passion, energetic, all those. And Ketu on one hand is spirituality, is devotion, is restlessness, giving up things, going for the higher cause. So those qualities are associated with the Ashwini Nakshatra. The combination, think about the qualities of Mars, think about the qualities of Ketu and mix those, We'll try to get a flavor of Ashwini Nakshatra. Again, animal horse. Let's see who are the main people who are born into this nakshatra. Now, this guy, Arthur Logan Turner, who was this guy? He is a ENT. First surgeon to work at the ENT pavilion at the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh. Is known for textbook of ENT. He has written some famous textbook for ENT. So I just thought definitely there has to be someone with ENT. Let's try to see. And when I see this guy came up in the picture, he wrote a very famous textbook. And he was born in 1865, almost like 200 years back. 160 years back, but okay. And when you see what are the planets in Ashwini, he has got Ketu in Ashwini here. Of course, there's many planets in Barney, but Ketu is in Ashwini here at 8 degrees. Time is unknown, so we will not worry about the Lagna, or you can at least look at Chandra Lagna and all. But then Ketu is in Ashwini, so Rahu Ketu axis falls on. And famous ENT. The other guy, now this is ophthalmologist. Study and very old, 1828, back in Brandenburg in Germany. Albert von Graffy, ophthalmologist, studied. He studied philosophy, logic, natural science, anatomy. Like he was not only ophthalmology, he also studied. He was basically a doctor. Treatment of glaucoma, cataract, many eye disorders back in those days. Now, someone may say, so what? Even Indians used to do, Shuchrut and all. Okay, fine, I agree. But there is a famous knife which you see this knife here. It's this knife he used for doing some surgery, and that knife is so famous. That knife itself is called as Graffy knife, based on his own name, and that he used to do for cataract surgery. Okay, cataract, many eye disorders, brain tumor, swelling of optic discs and all. So he can, again, related to brain tumor, related to optic disc, ophthalmology, surgery, all those things. Very, very, very familiar with Ashwini Nakshatra themes. What does this fellow have? Again, Ketu. Yeah.
Togiji, that knife, it's interesting. He's got the Kritika.
He's also got Kritika. I saw that Sun Mercury in Kritika. Yeah. I noticed.
And it's
that.
in the sign of the eyes. Vrishabh is the face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I think this guy perfectly fits more for even for Kritika Nakshatra. Maybe I can use the same guy chart for the Kritika Nakshatra.
Well, the Ketu and Ashwini is interesting because Ashwini is one of the very fascinating nakshatras in the nakshatra dasha systems because it's always activated by Rahu or Ketu. I think there's only one or two exceptions. But usually Rahu or Ketu is always one of the nodes that's going to activate Ashwini. Yeah.
True. So famous ophthalmologist. Who else? Let's see who else is there now. Harvey Williams Cushing, American neurosurgeon, pioneering brain surgery. And in fact, he has also, there's something called as Cushing syndrome. Again, neurosurgeon, brain surgeon, neurosurgeons. What does he has in Ashwini? Jupiter. Of course, all times are unknown here. So we don't know the time, but the birth dates are known. And Jupiter is not going to change.
And Jupiter won't.
It won't change,
Yeah.
So again, Jupiter is in Ashwini, pioneering brain surgery for Cushing's syndrome. And then what we have, because I remember, I was thinking, when is Ashwini, sun falls, sun date, and I don't remember. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Now, if you see Baba Saheb Ambedkar, he did a lot for Dalits, for lower sections of society. And if you see the nature of, and what does he has in Ashwini? Sun is in Ashwini for him. What did he do for what is Ashwini? To help people. So he also helped people to come out, like especially the lower section of society where those people were ignored and all those. He helped them. He worked for them. And then, so that's again an Ashwini Nakshatra theme probably. And he's also famous for his constitution, he wrote the Constitution of India and all those things. Okay.
Togiji, yeah, it's very common for rebellion.
Yes. Rebellious.
One of the translations of the Shakti, everyone keeps giving it to doctors, which does work. But if you read some of the Brahmanas, it actually mentions that it's the power to rally the army. So it's very interesting because you have people like Hitler, the infamous chart, Ashwini's son, Che Guevara, Ashwini. So many social political rebellions of some sort. So that is a side of Ashwini actually. It's a military. It's actually Mesha Rashi.
True. I feel the doctors, if you see nowadays we always curse doctors, correct? Doctors are looting money from us. They are not doing a good job and all that we say for medical doctors. It's our karma probably. In India, I remember I heard from my teacher, he's my 80, 90, he's no more now, but he was 80, he would have been 85 years old. He was telling us there was a time in India where doctors were asked to sit with cobblers, sit with, people with all those. Why? Because they said that these people are handling all fluids of human beings, the urine of human beings, and shit of human beings, and spit of human beings, and all. These or I'm not saying cobblers are bad and all. I'm just saying that the doctors were treated in that way.
Well, you're hitting on
never-
a really valid, it's a really valid point. There's some traditions that say that Shani is the representative of people who are interested in being doctors. Not all traditions say this. Some people say Mangal because clearly that's the surgeon. People say Surya because he's the favorite of Dhanvantri. There's various people, traditions that will say this, but in old Ayurveda, you could not refuse to treat anyone. So if you were in a war, think about speaking of war, think about a doctor in wartime that's on the battlefield. So even if the enemies came to you, you were supposed to treat them.
Correct. Yeah.
Because you had nothing to do with the war, you had everything to do with. So it's fascinating based on societal structures how it changes whether we honor or disrespect doctors. But what you're saying is also part of a latter development.
Exactly.
It's where doctors were considered to associate, also benefiting from people's suffering. To benefit from people's suffering or to profit from people's suffering was seen a certain way. So imagine all of us now, all of us, the whole world is profiting from people's suffering almost. So this was seen as and it should be perhaps a questionable thing.
No, I say when the doctors loot us, I think probably we are giving back their karma, we treated them like that. Now they are looting us. So it's like we treated them. So now, okay, fine. They are looting us now. So it's like karma coming
all the
back.
doctors listening will be like, what's going on?
Yeah. Medical doctor. Yeah. See, this is what it
if
was
we
like.
If we come to see them, they won't help us.
No, so I think we have done many wrong things to doctors before. Of course, there was a time before that doctors were treated, but somehow I don't know what happened to the section of society that we treated them badly, and now doctors loot us. So probably the karma is coming back. So they will loot us, and probably once that quota is over, then we will again treat them, and they will treat us better, I guess. So so this is what why it was like. Why my professor pointed out was, see, whenever we do hands-on work was not appreciated. We Indians are very good in memorizing. He was telling us we Indians are very good in memorizing for theoretical physics, theoretical sciences. We are very good, but when it comes to practical applications, we fail there. It is this Western people really has that capability of putting into practice, building new instruments, and all. Of course, depends on funding and all. India is also going forward, I know, but that's what, because you see how because hands-on experience was never considered as something important in India. Nowadays, yes, we do that. We are excelling in technology and engineering, but somehow that nature was there in India. And see, poor doctors, when they were doing on hands-on experience, they were allowed to sit with cobblers and other lower section of society in marriage functions and all. Poor doctors. Anyway, so somehow doctors, we need to think about it. Of course, I'm not a medical doctor, so but probably. Then talking about urgent, fast messages and all. Now, this guy Samuel Morse, we all know about Morse code developer. Now, Samuel Morse, of course, we used to telegrams. Telegram was very important even back in the late 80s and all. Even in India, telegram was like that guy postman used to walk, and the telegram guy we used to come in on a cycle. He has to fast deliver all those messages and all. And this was a guy who developed those Morse code basically to send signals or to send messages to faraway places in short period of time. So again, the delivery of messages in a very small amount of time. And somehow I was looking at this, and then I saw his Mars and Ketu both are in again Ashwini Nakshatra there. So fast delivery of messages. So again, and much older guy, 1791, almost like, I don't know, more than around 250 years old, 230 years around. So talking about those famous people now, again, coming back to my festivals, what are the festivals that we celebrate during when the sun is transiting Ashwini and all? Sun, we know, I don't know why I've written here 40 degree. It should be 0 degree to 13 degree, 20 minutes. I don't know why it is 40. Sun transits Ashwini from, around 14th April of every month till 27th of April. Now, if I ask you what are the festivals that come during this period, what can you think of? Do you recall any festival that comes during this period?
Well, in Kerala, the New Year, right? New Year happens when sun enters into Ashwini, actually. In Vishu,
exactly.
It's called.
Vishu, yes, true. Let's see.
One thing.
That's exactly. Solar New Year. It's a solar New Year because sun is entering Ashwini. It's entering the new cycle, from Aries to Pisces. And in India, there are some groups which celebrate which follow Luni solar, some follow strictly solar. But especially in Tamil Nadu, it is called Puttand, which is on the 14th of April. It's the first marks the beginning of the year when the sun enters Ashwini. In Kerala, it is called as Vishu. In Odisha, it is called as Mahabishubha Sankranti, also called as Pana Sankranti in Odisha. In Orissa. In Bengal, it is called Pohela Boishak. In Assam, it is called Bihu. In Punjab, it is called Baisakhi. So all different names, but they all follow a solar calendar, and they all celebrate their new year when the sun enters Ashwini Nakshatra. So, of course, it marks the beginning of the new year. What else we celebrate? The famous Mr. Ram year. Our birthday of Mr. Ram, So the first 9 days of Chaitra month, the birthday of Lord Ram comes here. Remember why? Lord Ram is considered or is because each avatar of Vishnu is considered with each planet. Each year, the Lord Ram is nothing but, I think it is compared with the sun out of all the 9 planets. And remember, sun exiles here. Sun is entering then its new cycle. And the birthday of Lord Ram comes during this period. And if we talk about Ram, next comes Hanuman. Even some people say Hanuman Jayanti, which is when the full moon in the Chaitra month is considered to be the birthday. There are 2 days, but one of them people do consider as Hanuman Jayanti coming in the month of Chaitra. Okay, Hanuman, the healer god. See, again, Hanuman, is a healer god. What happened? He brought all that mountain. I forgot that mountain name when Lord Ram and Lakshman was injured, correct? With that Nagpash.
I think the Sanjeevani herb or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he got that.
He brought the Sanjeevani,
Yeah. So again, medical and I think he got it from Himalayas, correct? That's what they say. Even come Himalayas, they were fighting in where? In near Lanka. So he went all over the Himalayas and got that, it seems. So again, fast delivery of medicine. Maybe he's our courier man of those times, fast medicine. He's our FedEx guy, man. FedEx also does that, correct? They have flights. So yeah, Hanuman, again associated with his birthday falls when the sun is in Ashwini Nakshatra. Now, we all talk about sun, but let's see what happens to moon. Like when the moon is in Ashwini, in the month of Ashwin, that night is called as, it is also called Sharad Purnima. It is also called as Kojagiri Purnima. And Sharad Purnima is when the full moon is in Ashwini Nakshatra. And that comes around, 15 days before Diwali. Diwali is a new moon night. 15 days before will be a Purnima. So that Purnima is called as Sharad Purnima or the Kojagiri Purnima. It's a full moon night in the Ashwin month. And what they do is, remember, they place kheer and all in front of moon, and that moonlight has to fall on that kheer, and then they drink it. Sometimes they even have some milk, milk and all, masala doodh and all they call, and they keep it in the sunlight. Again, kheer, milk, all the milk products related to moon, keep it in the moonlight, and after for a certain time they keep there and then they consume it. It's one of the most famous Purnima in Hinduism. It is said that on this day the moon showers nectar, maybe for good health or so. It just says that. It is the same day they say that Radha and Krishna are playing, having Ras Leela, even Parvati and Shiva are dancing and all those things. It's a joyful event. It's a merryful event and all those. It's a happiness thing going on everywhere. So that's when happens when moon is transiting in Ashwini Nakshatra. Remember, what is Ashwini? Playful, cheerfulness, and all those things. So finally, last slide here, Ashwini, the star of transport. Ashwini Kumasa are nothing but the deity is Ashwini Kumasa. Mas or Ketu qualities can be seen. Mas is that courage, dynamism, fastness, all those things can come. Along with Ketu's qualities of spirituality, restlessness, and going to higher level of consciousness, striving hard for that. Related to some health aspects and first house effects can be seen. The tree is poison nut tree, and then finally the festivals. I'm still counting. So far we have spoke for 54 hours, 6 minutes. Let's see how Ashwini will go. So I'm the account keeper here. So I think, I don't know, I spoke a lot, man. More than an hour, about an hour. So
yeah, interesting. We'll have to see if Ashwini breaks records or not, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so that was my slide for Ashwini Nakshatra.
Okay, great. I think over to Dr. Pai now. Yeah.
Okay, that was brilliant, Aditya. Thank you for that introduction. That's why we let Aditya speak first, because he brings all the initial slides, and he explains the astronomy as well. Now, I've done so many videos on Ashwini. So today I'm going to talk a little bit different about Ashwini, which is not there in other videos that we have already shared in the past. Now, these are some of my thoughts that obviously the other people here in the panel can also share their thoughts as well. Now, when it comes to Ashwini Nakshatra, the thing that first strikes me about Ashwini is the process of how the fertilization of the egg that happens. The process is, the sperms start quickly flowing towards the egg. The fastest sperm which gets to the egg, and what happens with the egg is the egg just shuts down and it cuts off the head, leaving the tail behind. Because it shuts down, because all the information which is required for the fertilization of the egg is in the head. The tail is only for helping it with its agility and its movement. So this whole process, when I saw this process of the egg just shutting down, which means it just cuts the head of the sperm and the tail remains behind, and all the other million sperms which wanted to make it first there, they all are rejected. It's only that one sperm which is successful. That is the fastest sperm. That is your swiftness. That is the Ashwini. That's the head which is being cut off. That's the head of the Ashwa, which is the horse's head. Because the horse's head is the information, the DNA that is there is, and that's why I think Eve was also mentioning in many of the systems that we see with the Dasha systems, it's always Rahu or Ketu, or maybe she says one or two exceptions, I don't know, but it is the genetic information is held by
the Brahma Trimurti chakras is what you're talking about. They all deal with genetics, actually.
Exactly.
The Brahma Trimurti chakras.
But this is not exactly what you're saying. Rahu Ketu story, cutting off the head.
Exactly, the cutting of the head. It's the same thing. So you understand, the head is very, very symbolic here, because it's the horse's head is the symbol. That itself should give you a lot of clues, because if you look at the head is what has all the pancha jnanendriyas, which means the eyesight. We have two eyes, we have two ears, we have two nostrils, we have two brains. So if you see all these duality themes that are there in the head, which means the sight, the hearing, the smell, the taste, everything, all your pancha jnanendriyas are in the head. That is where even the brain is. This is the command center. So that is why this nakshatra has a lot of meaning that we need to unravel. Okay, now let's look at what Ashwa means. Ashwa means to arrive, to reach, or to get to a destination very quick. That is what the root word Ashwa, which means horses. It was also called in Sanskrit as Arva. Arvas are also called as horses. So this word Arva was coined to a place during Vikramaditya's time, to a place in the Middle Eastern region was called as Arvastan. Now what became Va becomes Ba, which means if you see in Bengali also, we don't say Vikram, we say Bikramaditya. B, instead of Va, we say Ba. Okay, Bikramaditya, not Vikramaditya. Similarly, Arvasthan became Arbastan, Arabia. The word Arabia comes, the land of the stallions and the horses. So that is why we get this information also. It's a Middle East where the sun is very powerful. So the land of the horses. Also, I feel very strongly about this nakshatra is all about the manifestation of Ardhanarishwara. The energies of Shiva and Shakti is the primordial energy of unification. And that is the representation I want to bring with, Ashwini, because the themes of duality and the complementary opposite nature that we see is all connected to Ashwini, which means whether it is day and night, because the Ashwini Kumaras are not only worshipped during the dawn, the break of the dawn, because Usha is their sister who actually, they follow behind Usha. That is the, the harbinger of the light, the rays of the sun. And even during the sunset, also the Ashwini Kumaras are very active. So that's why we have in the Rig Veda, you see the reference given to not the Ashwini Kumaras are the twins, but they are also said to be Dasra and Nasatya. These are the two names which have been given. Now, what does Dasra means? Dasra means, it comes from the word called Darshaniya. Dashra means, Darshaniya means somebody who's very charming, very beautiful, handsome, beauty. And Dashyati, Shipati Rogam, which means their ability to quickly remove the diseases and the ailments from you. That's why the word Dashyati, Shipati Rogam is what is mentioned. That is Dasra. Dasra means who has ability to remove the blemishes that is there. We are thinking only about diseases. The Ashwini Kumaras have the ability to remove the blemishes that is there in our life. So this is one of the Parihara Nakshatras. This is, now one thing I want to say, there are two Parihara Nakshatras very commonly given. What is Parihara? When you do remedies in this, when moon is transiting these nakshatras, they give you quick results. One, it is a Shipra and a Laghu, which means it's light. Whatever your light-weighted karmas you are carrying in your life, which is not your prarabdha, which means prarabdha you cannot change, but you have so many lighter karmas that you can easily, the low-hanging fruits you always want to take it away. So this nakshatra and Satabhishak are said to be Parihara nakshatras. Both of them are connected through the horses. Now I'll tell you why the horses are important. Now, if you understand the principle of horses, then you will know there was a yagna, which was a Rajasuya yagna called Ashwamedha yagna. Medha means the muscles, the meat. Okay, that was given as sacrifice. Medha. There was Go Medha Yagna also during those times, Ashwamedha Yagna. Now, if you remember, what is Ashwamedha? A horse by an emperor is let go for 365 days, that is the solar year. It can travel anywhere, wherever it wants to go. And if somebody challenges the horse, then what happens is they have to fight. That somebody is challenging your authority. And when the sun comes, the horse has gone one full year and it comes back into Aries, that's when the head of the, it's sacrificed. It is more symbolic of the connection with Ashwini Nakshatra, which is like the sun coming back. We talked about the New Year celebration when the sun is entering into Aries. Isn't it? Ashwamedha. Now, Ashwamedha also has very important meaning that you understand when you go into even Ramayana. It was the twin brothers, Lava and Kush, who stopped the horse of Lord Rama, the Ashwamedha. So you have to remember, it is a connection again. When you talk about many stories, you see myths, there are twins always being born. Whether it is Nakul and Sahadeva, I'll come to that. Whether it is Lakshmana and Shatrugna, okay, during Rama's time, and Lava and Kush, Yama and Yami. So this thing of duality has always been there in our myths and legends as well. So that's why I want to say this is not only like about the duality, which is creation and destruction, which is the solar side and the lunar side, which means the lunar currents of the body and the solar currents, which is Ida Nadi and the Pingala Nadi. That's also the Ashwini twins, the dawn and the dusk, day and night, the heavens and the earth, life and death, Jnana and Ajnana, which means both knowledge as well as ignorance. The seen world that you can see and the unseen world is also the Ashwini twins. That is why amongst the 33 devatas, we say Trimshat devatas. Amongst the 33 devatas, Ashwini Kumaras are also. See, we have the 12 Adityas, the light makers. Then we have 11 abstractions of Shiva, the Rudras. Okay. Then we have the Ashtavasus, which are the 5 elemental gods, which are the Panch Mahabhutas, the sun, moon, and Nakshatrani, which is the rays of all the nakshatras, the 27 nakshatras. Okay, so, and then we have the Ashwini twins, okay, and Prajapati, or sometimes we say Indra as well. So totally 33 devatas, Trimshat devatas. So Ashwini are those light makers that you see. So that's why I talk about this, like EG mentioned also. I feel the nakshatra of Ashwini is also the ebb and flow of the prana, which is nothing but Agni and Vayu. See, very clearly you see the principle of Ashwini Nakshatra. As I said, it's the fastest sperm which gets to the egg and fertilizes the egg. Okay, that is the fastest means of transportation. Then the egg itself is Bharani Nakshatra. When the fetus grows and the umbilical cord is cut, which is Kritika Nakshatra, the water flows, Apa Bharani, and then you are being born and you're delivered, and you take the first breath, which is Swati Nakshatra, which is Vayu, which is quite opposite to the So Agni is not a principle of feeling weak. It is just a principle of understanding the polarities. One is, you say, male and female. They're just polarities. They are not that one is stronger or one is weaker. They're just complementing each other. So Ucha doesn't mean always good. Nicha doesn't mean always bad. It is just the polarities that you need to understand. So essentially, when we look at the Ashwini Nakshatra, it is the ebb or flow of prana. That's why you see the whole story of them being born from the exchange of breaths between, Marthanda. Marthanda is, Surya. He came in the form of a male horse, and Samajnana. Samajnana means equal knowledge that you see. Okay, or balanced knowledge. Samajnana. Sanjana, she's also called, or Samajnana, which means balanced knowledge. So their breaths exchanged and the Ashwini twins were born, which means they are prana devatas. So they are the ones which bring Udana Vayu and Apana Vayu. So they are the twins, Apana Vayu and Udana Vayu. They are the high energy and the low energy. They are the moon's influence on the water that you see, the high tide and the low tide. Both are the Ashwini twins. They are the weakness and the vitality. When you look at a horse, what is the first thing that strikes to you about the horse? It's their beauty, their luster of the skin, their slender body, which is there, the muscular body, and the youthfulness that you see from them. And the other thing that you see with the horses is they love their freedom. They cannot be placed in, they cannot be caged. They need a long ring for them to run. They cannot be put in cages. That's how they are. So Ashwini natives are just like they are left free. They want their freedom. They want their space. That's why they say it is earth and sky, which is Dayas and Prithvi, sun and moon, Surya, Chandra, Jala and light, which is Jala and Prakasha. So they are all of these dualities that you see. They are the left, hemisphere of our body and the right hemisphere, which is Ida Nadi and the Pingala Nadi. So do you see that these are the principles that you see? That's why there's also this story that you see with, he was talking, Aditya was talking about Chavana Rishi. Now, Chavana, the history of Chavana is he's the son of Bhrigu Rishi and Uloma, his mother. When Uloma was carrying him, Chavana, in her womb, it seems that she was attacked by a Rakshasa. And the Rakshasa was actually strangulating her. And in her fear, the baby just dropped from her womb. And that is why he's called as Chavana. Chavana means somebody who was born early, before their time of birth. So you see, Ashwini Nakshatra people are people who are in a very much hurry to come into this world. They want to come here earlier than they wanted to come, or they come with a mission that they want to come and accomplish something. Ketu Nakshatras are all like that. In Vimshotri Dasha, if you see all Ketu's Nakshatra, they have come here with a particular purpose and they want to quickly come here and leave this. Okay, so this whole principle is also seen with this nakshatra, Chavana. And Chavana's son is nothing but he is Dadichi. Rishi is Chavana's son. So Ashwini Kumaras gave beauty and youth to Chavana, and reciprocating for their favor, he gave them the right to lift the embargo that was put on them by Indra. Now, Indra was so jealous that only he has the right to have the Soma. And a few of his chosen, demigods that he has chosen them, saying that, okay, you can have this. This is like the ultimate nectar of elixir of immortality. But he thought that, these twins were not, because they were earthly born. They are mortals, but they were elevated later on, isn't it? So they were not given the right. But Chavana Rishi, you see, he gave them the right, because Indra comes and Indra always tries to bulldoze people. He tried to do that. He lifted his Vajra to actually say, you cannot give them the right, because they prepared the synthetic Soma that they learned from Dadichi, from Chavana Rishi's son. So Chavana Rishi actually says to his son, yeah, you can teach these people. They have given me back my youth. So you teach them this Vidya, making synthetic Soma, but the real Soma is prepared for Indra. Now, the beauty of this whole system that even Aditya was saying about Vishwakarma, chopping off. See, this is all astronomical wisdom. Like EG was saying, it's Guva Vidya. What you have to understand is why we are talking about Vishwakarma. It's nothing but, Vishwakarma is nothing but Chitra Nakshatra. Chitra is that point, the Spika is the starting point. That is the middle point. That's why we start our journey from, isn't it? That's why right opposite 180 degrees, 0 degrees is Ashwini Nakshatra, which has been given. So the fixing point is not Ashwini. The fixing point is actually Chitra Nakshatra and Spika, the star, which falls almost degreely at 30 degrees of between 30 degrees of Virgo and 0 degrees of Libra. That is the point. That is the Yogatara, isn't it? That is what is fixing us. So that is Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma is shaping up whatever is happening. Him removing the rays of the Marthanda, Surya, is that. Then also here I would want to bring one more thing. See, now everybody knows about the Putra Kameshti Yagna. That was to beget, sons. Dasharatha created a grand sacrifice. And he took the help of a rishi called Rishya Shringa. their Kulu Guru was Vashishta do the Putra Kamishti Yagna. Now in the Putra Kamishti Yagna, you have to read Valmiki Ramayana. That is very beautiful. That many people don't read the lines in between in Sanskrit. When you read that, it is very beautiful. What happens is, when it is the Ashwini twins who actually came up with the kheer. Aditya also said, Kojagri Purnima, what we do, we make a kheer of milk and rice, and we put some jaggery as well, and we prepare a pudding, and that is kept in the moonlight. That is like the Putta Kameshti Yagana, which was the result of that, which is, so the pudding came, but he said that the pudding, half of the pudding he scooped up, before he was able to scoop up, it said a kite came, took some pudding, and it flew away. The kite is Vayu, who actually came, and he took the pudding, and mother of Hanuman was sitting there and praying to Lord Shiva. So he dropped that pudding there. So that's how she also became pregnant. And she gave birth to Hanuman. So half of the pudding he scooped it, and he gave it apparently to Kaushalya. Okay, and she gave birth to Lord Rama, isn't it? That's how we know. And then what happens is, half of the next pudding he gives to Kaikeyi, Bharata was born. And then to Sumitra, he gives the pudding twice. Why? Because, when the scoop was given half, she had, Kaushalya had a most part. A small part she gave it to Sumitra, because her younger sister, right? So she felt like, okay, I'm having so much, so you also have a part was given to her. And a part was also, what was remaining was given to her by her husband, Dasharatha. So two pudding, morsels she had, while Kaushalya and Kaikeyi only had one portion. So that's why twins were born to Sumitra, not to Kaikeyi or to Kaushalya. So understand that Putra Kamishti Yagna and the pudding, the rice pudding which came, gave birth to not only Lord Sri Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, Satrughna, which were twins, but also to Hanuman, as per certain stories, because the kite which came, or the eagle which came, which scooped up some of the thing, was for Hanuman's birth. Because even Anjana was a virgin who was born, isn't it? We talk about many of these virgin births, if you think about it. Like Jesus also, we say, is born from a virgin, right? Virgin Mary. The same principle here as well. Anyway, so there is another thing that I also wanted to point out today is about the battle formation during Mahabharata. Very interesting, and this you also need to know, this is a connection with this nakshatra also. Because if you look at Shatapatha Brahmana, or Taittiriya Brahmana, the sutra from there, the Nakshatra Sutra, it actually talks about Grama as the Parastat and Sena as the Avastat. What is Sena? Sena doesn't mean just the army. Here, during the Mahabharata, there were two factions. The two factions were the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Now, Narayani Sena, Krishna gave his Narayani Sena to Duryodhana, because Duryodhana asked for the Sena, he didn't ask for Krishna. So Krishna said, I will be unarmed and I will be with the Pandavas. Now the Pandava army was only, there is a battle formation in Sanskrit which is called as Akshayoni. Have you heard of Akshayoni? Akshayoni means it's a huge battle formation. I'll talk to you about the smallest battle formation is the primary, it is called a Patti. A Patti is one chariot, one elephant, 3 cavalry, which means 3 horses, and 5 infantry, 5 foot soldiers. This is the basic structure. Then every time you multiply by 3, there is a different. Sena means 3 pattis will become Sena. Okay, what is 3 pattis? 3 chariots. Then you would have 3 elephants, then 9 horses, and 15 infantry. This is the battle formation. So this one such big formation, if you think about it, one Akshayoni is so big, it has thousands of soldiers and elephants and things like that. It's a big number. So total number is about 65,610 or something like that. Okay, so it's a huge formation. So Pandava army had 7 Akshayoni. Kaurava army had 11 Akshayonis, because there is also, Krishna's Narayani Sena which is being given to it. Now, how can a smaller battle formation of 7 Akshayoni defeat 11, formation? So the numbers are key here. Number 7. I feel there is a very strong connection with number 3 and number 7 with Ashwini Nakshatra. The reason is, see, they are the sons of the Surya Devata. Surya is on 7 horses, which is also called as, sometimes they say, one body of a horse with 7 heads, which is Uchchai Shravas. And the other is, they also show 7 horses. So, and he was also born, Surya was born on Ratha Saptami, the 7th lunar day. Remember, the month of Ashwini is also the 7th lunar month of the Hindu lunisolar calendar. What are the 7 months before that? Chaitra, Vaishaka, Jaishta, Ashada, Shravana, Bhadrapada. Then the 7th one is the Ashwini. And what is the most important thing with Ashwini? If we all forget about the month, the festivals that we celebrate, the first thing that we forgot is we celebrate the Pitru Paksha during the Ashwini month and the Sarva Pitra Amavasya, Mahalaya Amavasya, to ancestors. So Ashwinis are also to heal you with your ancestral karmas also. I told you this is a Parihara Nakshatra. Second, there is Navratra, Sharad Navratra also we celebrate. During Sharad Navratra, there is also Saraswati Avahana, Saraswati Puja we also do. Then we have Durga Ashtami, then we have Mahanavami, then we have Dashara, Vijay Dashami. Remember, how can you forget that all of this is in one month, where we have the Pitru Paksha, we also have the Navratra, we also have the Dashara. So Dashara is one very important day, amongst the Sadhe days, which is 3.5 days in a year where you don't have to look at any muhurta. They are called as Sadhe muhurtas. So one of them, I think, is the Kojagari Purnima or Pratipada, Kartika Pratipada. Okay, that is one. Akshay Tritiya. Then we have this. Then Yugadi, which is when the sun is moving, Gudi Padwa, Yugadi, it's the new year, right? That is also a day when you don't see any muhurtas. So this is a very important month that we celebrate Pitru Paksha. Then Sharat Purnima, as he said, Kojagari Purnima. So Kojagiri Purnima also, remember, there are 2 times in a year we worship Goddess Lakshmi. See, Goddess Lakshmi is said she's born twice. Like moon god is also said he's born twice. That's why this nakshatra is also associated with a Ganapati who is called as Dvija. Dvija means twice born. Dvija Ganapati is amongst the 32 forms of Ganapati, this is connected to Dvija. So Lakshmi is also twice born. That is why her celebrations are done and she's worshipped even on Purnima Titi, which is Kojagiri Purnima, Sharat Purnima, and also during Diwali time also she celebrated on Amavasya. Can you imagine? So her thing is both, she's holding the powers as a full moon also and a new moon also. Right? That's when we do Lakshmi Pujan. Okay, so then let's look at some of the very important thing, one more thing. So Saraswati is very strongly associated with this nakshatra. And Shvetha means white color is also associated with this nakshatra. And the primordial godhead of all the Ashwini Kumaras and this energy is Saraswati, and on top of her is Hayagriva. Everybody forgets Hayagriva. See, the Aditya who controls Pisces, we looked at, he was saying, Ashwini was rising, and we looked at the picture, it was Pisces. Pisces, who is the Surya Aditya? It's Vishnu. Vishnu Aditya is associated with Pisces Rashi. And as we come into Aries, it is Dhata Aditya. Dhata means it is Brahma, it is like creation. Something new has to begin, And if you know the story of Hayagriva, Hayagriva was created to kill, 2 asuras, which is Madhu and Kaitava, and also another asura, which was formed from the birth of Kashyapa and Danu. His name was also Hayagriva, but he's an asura. He's an asura Hayagriva who has a horse's head. To slay him, Vishnu took an avatar of Hayagriva again, the same similar name, like a twin brother. So to kill another twin like him, he took the form of a Hayagriva. And Hayagriva, if you look at the description given, he is riding on 1,000 horses and is crushing all the enemies of the demigods. And they say his tongue has Agni. We just said, see, this number 7 is, I said, is connected to this nakshatra. What is this nakshatra of number 7? Surya Devata, I said number 7, these 7 horses. What are the 7 horses? The 7 chandas, the meters. Gayatri, Ushnik, Anustup, Pankti, Jagati. So there are 7 meters also in the mantra sadhana. So Surya is the god of mantra sadhanas. So that's why we go to him. And that's why he's exalted also in Ashwini. Okay. So this nakshatra has also, you see, even Agni has 7 tongues. Sapta Jiva, Sapta Turaga. Surya is drawn by 7 horses, Sapta Turaga. So 7 rivers, 7 rishis. Number 7 is something very primordial. It's the god which supports us, guides us. Number 7. So that's why we see the connection of this nakshatra with number 7. And the other theme that finally I wanted to say, some small stories I also wanted to give about see, Brahma is the great grandfather of Ashwini twins. Who is their great grandfather? The great grandfather is Marichi Rishi. So Marichi Rishi is given as their lineage. Who is Marichi? Marichi's son is Kashyapa. Kashyapa's son is Surya, or all the Adityas. So do you see the lineage? The great grandfather being Brahma, Brahma's son Marichi, Marichi's son Kashyapa, Kashyapa's son the Adityas, and Adityas, which is Marthanda Aditya's son, which is Vivaswat Aditya, is Ashwini twins. So Ashwini is also, you have to know that they, Evji talked about the cell structure and how the cells split, right? Basically, they have learned a Vidya from their great grandfather, which is called as Brahma Vidya. There are so many Brahma Vidyas. Out of that, one of the Brahma Vidyas is called as Kaya Kalpa. Kaya means invigorating the body cells and making them look youthful. This is the Vidya they learned from their, it's a Brahma Vidya. They learned from their great grandfather, Brahma himself. Then they also learned to become cultivators of herbs in the heaven. That's why they also understand Ayurveda. They were the bringers of the first doctors to prepare herbs and medicines. Who's their guru? Vaidyanath Shiva. Then I talked about in Devi Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavatam also, you see restoration of youth, okay, given by the Ashwini twins, where you know about Chavana Rishi, Sukanya, and the Ashwini twins giving youth back. But it's not only youth what they gave, they also brought back the eyesights of the Chavana Rishi because he's lost his eyesight. So they are connected with healing whatever you see in duality, eyes, so they can hear, you're hearing, you're dumb, then they can make you hear because it's a 2 years, right? So Chavana, then they gave you the Rasayana, Ayurvedic concoction that we prepared from almost 39 herbs, which is called Chavana Prasha. Okay. Also, Ashwini Nakshatra is that nakshatra when you should start taking Siddha medicine. They have taught even the Siddhas, the Tamil Siddhas and the Tamil medicine, and the Kaya Kalpa also glowing, and you do Panchakarma treatment today. You go on 21 days programs for purifying your thing. That is also what Kaya Kalpa. It is also purification with the Panch Mahabhutas. That's why it's called as Panchakarma Kriya. Okay. Then the next thing is Ashwini and Indra. See, Indra's embargo was there on not drinking the Soma, correct? and they were given it is a miracle drug, and there is this circle. They always want to be in the circle of influence. They also want to elevate themselves. So Ashwini natives will always try to elevate and be part of certain groups or secret societies because they feel they deserve to be there. Okay, but that's why you see Indra's nakshatra is in Veda with this nakshatra. Jyeshta nakshatra and Ashwini nakshatra. Ashwini forms a Veda, which means perforation, obstruction for Jyeshta nakshatra, because Indra is blocking them from going and getting. That's why they also became the great surgeons. See, Aditya was saying that surgeons were not allowed to sit with other doctors. They were supposed to sit with the cobblers. Even today, I don't know how many of you know, surgeons cannot use the title of doctor, in front of their name. Usually they give their, whatever their title, their education is DM, DMRT, blah, 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 whatever they give that. That's all. They cannot use doctor because surgeons in initial times were actually surgery was done by the butchers who used to cut, open animals and for, meat and livestock. So they used to do the surgery. It was not the proper doctors who used to do, cutting open the skin and looking at inside and all of that was done by so even today you see surgeons cannot use the title, or they do not use the title doctor in front of their name in their title. They of course use their title of whatever degrees they have, like MBBS and then whatever masters they have achieved. Okay, then we know about Rishi Dadichi. I talked about the bones of Rishi Dadichi. Who is Dadichi? Son of Chavana Rishi. So he, through his meditative powers, he started storing everything in his bones. So his bones became as strong as diamond. That is why that bones were used to make the Vajra. Vajra is what? Diamond. Okay. So Vajra of Indra is nothing but diamond. So his bones became as strong. So what is Ashwini Nakshatra? Those people who have bone related problems, arthritis, rheumatic arthritis, osteoporosis, brittle bones. Sun is the Karaka for bones. So who are the people you want to go? It is the Ashwini twins you have to go, because they also will bring you relief from this. Upamanyu in Mahabharata was a young boy who lost his eyesight. So the Ashwini Kumaras removed his blindness. Okay. Maharishi Atri also is been given in the story. Ashwinis, they freed Maharishi Atri from being fried in a hot pot by a monster or by a asura who abducted him, and they wanted to put him in hot boiling water and probably make a nice soup out of him. So this is what is said in the Shastras. So Atri soup. Before Atri became a soup, Ashwini Kumaras came and they saved him. So what is the boiling pot and things like that? That is also probably giving you an indication of saying something to do with your blood pressure. Okay, Ashwini twins can also be worshipped to help you with your, not only your bones, your eyes, your ears, ENT, she said, ear, nose, throat doctors. Your pranayama, your anything that you do with your nose, nostril, breathing techniques. Okay. Then the other very important thing that also, which is two things which I wanted to say. It is said that Ashwini twins were the innovators or inventors of prosthetic legs, which is artificial limb. Vishfala was a queen who lost her leg in a battle. And it is said that the Ashwini twins innovated the artificial limb, and they fitted the artificial limb and to Vishfala, the queen Vishfala. Then Ashwini twins are also said to be the first people to create cesarean cesarean section birth, and this has been given in Mahabharata, that a male becoming pregnant. We have seen, always women always are the ones who bear, but here they performed cesarean, the first cesarean. So medical marvel where a male could give birth to a child. So this also was something which is miraculous, which has been given in the Mahabharata in the stories, where Ashwini twins, and through their. Ashwini twins in Rig Veda is also mentioned that they have the technology to help you bring rainfall, which is through Agni Stoma, Agni and Soma. So basically, when you said they became partakers of the Soma, which means they understood, because Agni Stoma was actually conducted for them by Chavana Rishi. Chavana Rishi grand sacrifice of Agni Stoma so that they can be partaking in the offering of Soma by Indra. So these are some of the stories. Also, the story is Ashwini twins are also said to be connected to the oceans. They also said they have saved a young boy from drowning. His name is Bujya. Okay, this is again, which is given. It is the son of Tugru was saved from drowning in the ocean. When his boat capsizes, then he calls out for Ashwini twins. They come and save him. So Ashwini is also the twins, is the ocean and the sky which is merging together. So that is also the Ashwini twins is what is mentioned. Okay, so I think one more theme I would want to say is whenever you study about Ashwini, definitely look at a horse and look at the features of the horse. Those features will definitely be seen in the Ashwini natives who are very strong. For example, what is the most prominent thing? Horsey ambience. If you see somebody who's a horsey ambience, they will have perfect big teeth. Horses, when they smile, you see they have big teeth. Then their mane, the mane is what we call the hair, flowing hair. They are also very, so women could also have, particularly Ashwini Nakshatra people I've seen, they always are very particular about their hair. Women touching their hair, they want to go to get their hair done. The other thing also what I've seen with Ashwini is they are extremely clairaudient. Okay, clairaudience and what is the other one? The sensitivity to energies.
Clairvoyance, maybe?
Clairvoyance, exactly. Clairvoyance and clairaudient, which means they can hear things that. So because they are Brahma's children, and Nada Brahma, which means the thing that we can't hear, everybody, that which is not heard, they can hear. That which is not seen, that they can see. That's why I said they can make you show the world that we want to see, and they can also show you the world that is unseen. Okay. Okay, final thing I want to say with Nakula and Sahadeva, and this will give you every little detail of this nakshatra. Nakula means he was the most handsome in the entire Puru clan, and he was very proud of it. So he was the most handsome from the entire Puru dynasty. Okay, and he was very proud. That is why he also fell off. He didn't go to the heavens directly, because his flaw was he was too proud about his beauty or his, how handsome he was. Sahadeva was said to be the most intelligent among the entire Kuru dynasty. So understand, whatever I'm giving you are all the traits of Ashwini and the Ashwini Kumaras. Most handsome, most intelligent. Now, love for animals. Nakula loved horses, and he during they were incognito, Agnyatavas, for 1 year, in King Virata's kingdom. So Nakula became taking care of the horses, the stable of horses there. And Sahadeva, cattle, cow. So both of them are connected to Ashwini. Cattle, cows, and elephants also. Then Nakula is known to be excellent swordsman. Okay, and they used to say so good that he was with his swordsmanship. When there was rain falling, he could dodge even a single drop of rain drop on his sword, because he could swiftly move his sword so that not even a single drop of the rainfall would fall on his sheath of blade. So that means he was a great expert swordsman. What was Sahadeva? He was an expert in use of axe, using an axe. Okay. Then Nakula was an expert in horse riding, and he was excellent diplomat, which means if some messages had to be sent, he was the messenger carrying it on the horses, because messengers used to have horses. Then Sahadeva was great in political sciences, humanitarian sciences, Veda, and administration, governance. Okay, so these are the key themes that you would see with Ashwini also. Okay, so these are some of my observations that I wanted to say, because when you look at Ashwini, there are so many stories that you can think about, but these are some things which definitely stand out for me. Okay. Also, Ashwini natives will also benefit from healing therapies which use light and sound. Remember, Ashwini twins are light and sound. So if you can use music and proper lighting, influence also can be healing. Now, if you go to countries in the Scandinavian countries, there is a very high rate of suicide that happens there because there is no sunlight there. For 6 months, there is no sunlight in those countries. So a lot of people feel depressive. So, when you go into countries where there is more sunlight, so what they do, they take a lot of white light. White light, they go and soak themselves in white light, because white light is very important for us. So soaking yourself with the right kind of music and right kind of white light can really make you feel very energetic. Okay, so that is the thing with the horses and with the Ashwini twins. So these are my and also one more thing finally I want to say is Ashwini is nothing but it is the vibrationary frequencies. The frequencies that we see, everything which is sound frequencies also can be connected to the Ashwini twins as well. Okay, so that is from my side. I can keep on going, but I think the other panelists also must be waiting for their turn. It's been a very long, lengthy session that we've been having. So, EFG, please take it over from here.
Can you see this?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Everyone can see? Okay. No, Dr. Paiji, anytime I'm very, I'm not just saying this, I always feel like a student. I never feel like, even when I'm running my mouth, which I do. So if there's anything any of you see while I'm discussing this, please, unmute and just say, and Dr. Paiji, there were so many points, and Togiji, I was just thinking, there were so many subtleties that you pointed out that I don't want to miss. So what I'm going to do with this is start with a point that Dr. Paiji brought forward in a subtle way and just illuminate, maybe help it bloom a bit. We have this here on the screen, which I'll get to. But speaking of Indra and the Ashwini Kumars, Ashwini, by the way, is feminine. So there's a lot of talk that this nakshatra used to be the horsewoman. So we haven't mentioned that, even though all of us do know that. I don't know when that changed or what it was or how it was relative. But clearly we have the Ashwin Kumars in Rig Veda. They're clearly not given their status by Indra. So to both Togiji's and Dr. Paiji's point, that's a big theme with Ashwini. But who helps them get their status back? It's very interesting. Saraswati. Now, who's always helping Indra? Out of the Shaktis, there's one Shakti he tends to go to that helps him out. Sahasrayoni, his issue. Who helps him out? Mahalakshmi. Very often, it's Lakshmi that's helping Indra. Okay. So please centralize your thoughts here for a minute with me. I just want everyone to bring your attention to these three Shaktis, Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati, because this is really important and to understand a nakshatra like Ashwini, because Ashwini is quite subtle actually. So Indra, who is he? Indriyas. He's obvious who he is. And he likes his what? What is his main possessiveness? What is the thing that he's obsessing about?
Is wealth.
Well, what is the thing? Is it his throne, his seat, right? which I guess is his, well, but is his seat. He does not want to be dethroned, right? That's a whole thing. It's constant with Indra through all of these stories. He never wants to be dethroned. So he's threatened by anyone who he thinks could take over his throne. Now, if he's seated in the Indriyas, he's very possessive of wanting to enjoy what's coming through the Indriyas. Now, who is the Shakti of the seat? Who is Padma Devi? Lakshmi. Lakshmi is the one in the lotus, sitting still. She's stira. Out of the other Shakti, she's, let's say the chakras. Let's just take that for an example. Like a seat. She's seated in the seat. Indra loves this position of power because anything stable like this gives authority and allows him to drink the soma from that center, from that seat. So he loves the senses because he's the one, he's the part of us, you could say, that's taking in all these experiences, drinking it all in, probably mistaking it for soma. So anyway, this is Indra, and he's very possessive over this seat. So Saraswati helps the Ashwins. This will give you a hint maybe to who the Ashwins actually are. Who is Saraswati? So if we've got Lakshmi in the chakras, just put her there. I'm not saying, please don't get too intellectual with this, that this nakshatra, there's this devata and all of this. Please, please, guys, we're at a very base level. So just let's say Lakshmi is that energy which stations itself and therefore reigns. What does it say in Brihadarashastra Shastra that Vishnu does with Lakshmi? He reigns the entire world. He rules. This is to unite with Lakshmi means he rules the world. All you got to do is read Brihadarashastra Shastra, the first chapter. Most people, I guess, don't read it because I get a lot of questions about this. But it says really clearly that Sri Vishnu unites with these three Shaktis and does a different activity. When he unites with Lakshmi, he's stira and he rules. He's in a seat, a throne of power. So you could say that's the chakras. What? She's Siddha Lakshmi, right? You get all the siddhis, you get all these attainments. So even in her Ashtakam, does anyone know how it starts? You know the Namaste Stu Maha Maye, that one? Anyone know how it starts? Indra Uvacha. Indra Uvacha, right? Okay, so Indra is very much looking to her. Now Saraswati, she shares something also in our subtle body, or in our body, you could say in our body, but it's not always apparent. Now she has the musical instrument in her hand. Now, what is the word in Sanskrit for this sound? Nod. And what are the subtle channels of our body called? Nadi. She is the channels. And what are the Ashwins? The nose, the nostrils? Please, guys, put this together because this is, I really feel the rishis were giving us this gift and we're sitting here talking about personality types. And we can actually break free. Break out of prison, guys. Quit obsessing over whether you're Aries or Taurus. Who cares? Next life, you'll be Leo. Another life, you'll be Makara. And you're going to suffer. You'll be happy and suffer. And it's the same thing over and over. I'm surprised we're not bored of it yet. So there's a secrets. These are all secrets. Forget about personality. So the Ashwins travel. They're travelers, right? They move through the channels. So Saraswati helped them. It's giving you a hint of they're healers, right? Miraculous healers. What could it be? So Saraswati lets them travel through the channels. Now, Durga is the one we're not talking too much here. She's the Kundalini Shakti. She's the one that travels in the centers. So the little cobra, you say, the shape. Actually, many of the texts, Kundalini is not just in the Muladhara. This is, if you don't read, you won't know. Some say it's in the Nabi, the navel. Some even say there's one that descends from the crown. So we need to know this stuff, to even discuss it. But Durga is that dynamic dangerous thing that can unleash that electrical power. So that's why some people, when they have this Kundalini awakening, they actually have pain, they have all kinds of issues. It can cause a psychotic episode if the channels aren't clean, all this. So I am not a guru. I'm not telling anyone to play with this. Please find a real guru, not someone who's going to charge you $5,000 and put you in a program. Okay, someone real. Go seek out someone real. And you're welcome to contact me if you want to talk about gurus or something. I'm completely open to that. Just please, there's warning signs there. If they're charging you tons of money and there's other things, please stay away. So I'm no guru, but I'm just talking about this to spark your intelligence, your curiosity. If you're longing for something else, really take Jyotish and look at this, because there are so many secrets like this. So here we see exactly what Dr. Paiji was talking about in the Brahmanas, where the Ashwins, it actually says Gramaha, Sena, and then it has the Shidra Vyapani Shakti. So this is actually community coming together with the Sena. This is the Senapati rousing not only the army, but the entire community. You could say army with Grama. You actually can, but you can also say community, like a large group of people. Now, what would that be related to what we're talking about as well, with the Ashwins being the nostrils, Saraswati carrying, when the channels are clean, you hear the nod. You hear the instrument. Why does she have a veena? So you hear the nod. So what is this Shakti? If all of your energies are not gathered in one place, nothing will happen for you. Even success will not happen for you. If your energies stay divided, even if you have some form of success out of luck or previous life karma, you yourself will not be present to enjoy it at all. As a matter of fact, if your energies are really condensed and pushed into a central place, even a cup of tea will be so enjoyable. It'll be like heaven on earth. Everything you do will feel so good. You'll be drunk all the time. You hear one song. One song can make your day good. You don't need anything else. If you centralize these vital energies, everything will become heaven, even if you're in a hut. And everything can become hell if you have to be broken from that state. So if you have to go like be a government official and deal with this headache, you have hell on earth. But I'm just saying that these Ashwin Kumars are very, very special. A key word here: enthusiasm, kama, desire. They have a lot to do with gathering all those winds of desire, gathering all those flames of desire and pushing them up. So I love that Dr. Paiji talked about the upward and downward moving airs. They are exactly that. This is why they're linked with the nostrils. This is why they're linked with the channels. And this is why Saraswati gave them the rightful place, where Indra did not want them to interfere with his sense enjoyment. This is why they restore the sight and the hearing. They actually give subtle sight. There are people that can see 2 dimensions. Everyone's going to think I'm crazy after this talk. I don't go all the way into this stuff, guys. But there's a reason why there's always 2 sides to things in this world. And I love that Dr. Paiji said that too. There's always 2 sides. That which appears logical and reasonable in all of this. Then there's the abstract, and the 2 sides will always think they're right. You get people in spiritual communities that lean towards the abstract. They think everyone logical is insane. Everyone logical thinks the abstract people are insane. What about the space in the middle? Once again, pulling and centralizing all of the energies to one central point. So here's where I get into the nostrils and all of this with the Ashwins, because there's tremendous Shakti in this nakshatra. And that's why so much importance is given to the moons. All of you are highlighting the importance of the moon here. so much important, so many important holidays, because most of these things were ritualistic, and it was using the natural biorhythm of the earth for yogic. You don't even have to use the word yogic. This is just so natural. Breath is one of the most natural things here with us. Love is one of our most natural resources. Either you love your career, you love your dog, you love your partner, you love yourself. It doesn't matter. You're going to love something. A narcissist loves themselves. Okay. I mean, so there's still, that is a natural resource. And these guys are the split or the divide between those two things that when you bring them together, they're unstoppable, quick. There's no moment between them. And there's a lot of stories to highlight this. Even in the Ucha of Shukra and Surya, there's a lot of mysteries here where Parsurama, the avatar of Shukra, Rama, the avatar of Surya, come together, and Surya, the avatar Ram, actually takes away his abnormally long life and leaves him with his power to travel all over the universe at will. Now, Shukra is the karka of vehicles and cars and horses. And what is the Sampat Nakshatra from his Ucha point? Ashwini. Ashwini, Venus in Ashwini is said to make a princess, prince, like a Rajkumar, Rajkumari, or king. If it's in the Lagna, it's said to make a great king. So there's this play of these Sampat Nakshatras and all this, but they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to show you something. So therefore, we know there's a very important relationship between Shukra and Surya. And Shukra being Chitta Samadhi Krite, the producer of Samadhi, and also one of the Moksha Karkas. Shukra, even though Bhoga Karka is also a Moksha Karka, Surya has a lot of responsibility for moksha in the ancient texts. So there's these connections here that we need to just kind of follow the trail. Now, if we take the breath, you're going to see here, and this, please apply this to life, guys. This is not separate from anything in your life, whether it's mundane or whether it's deep, whether it's surface level or whether it's deep, they're both connected. So there's no high, there's no low. There's just whatever you desire to experience, you're going to experience. So if you want to apply this to your profession and being successful, do that. If you want to apply this to your spiritual life, do that. You know, this, it's not any different. I would touch your feet either way. You're still God. I don't know. I don't know where all this weird stuff comes from. So if you want to make a lot of money, go see if that actually satisfies you. Go, it might. That might be the purpose of your life. Who knows? So you can apply these same things here. So here you'll see I have attraction written in as the inhale. Now all Brahma Trimurti Nakshatras have something to do with aversion and attraction. Very powerful aversion and attraction within Brahma. Brahma is that guy. He's the responsibility for this whole mess is on Brahma. So this whole mess of creation, this beautiful mess is on Brahma. But the whole attraction and aversion really rests in him, in his Trimurti activity and genetics. So this whole procreative game, rejection and acceptance from the opposite sex, all of this stuff is all under Brahma. Okay, now attraction here, I am using towards Atma. That's really where we're actually happy. Now, I don't know what Atma is. I can't even tell you. So please, I'm not a guru, but I'm talking about the inward path. I do know that there is happiness in that. But not even happiness. There's something more, I would say, just satisfying, lasting. Let's say it that way. Like music is constantly playing. It's very magnetic. So the inhale, in a way, Lord Shiva is always the inhale because he's wiping out this world. When we close our eyes and inhale, wiping out this world, and we go to sleep. When we exhale as the Brahma, all this mess comes back out. All the headache starts. Open the eyes and you're in the waking world and you think you're awake. but you're in Brahma's dream. So you exhale. That's really the repulsion. But the repulsion is away from yourself. That's what I mean by this up here. So don't think I'm thinking about attraction and repulsion in the classical way that I like this and I don't like this. No, I'm talking about attracted towards oneself in a deeper way, not narcissism, but attracted toward one's, withdrawing one's energy to one singular point within oneself and resting in that and being magnetized in that, as opposed to being repulsed from oneself and looking for everything on the outside. So that's why I have increase and decrease, because increase of power or personal strength or Shakti actually comes from the inhale, actually comes from the withdrawal from your attention on everything external. Because as soon as you're external, this is logic, this isn't religious. As soon as you're externalized in your mind, you're all scattered. You're all scattered, you're everywhere. Your mind's everywhere. You got your attention on this. So in other words, you're decreasing your vital energy. That's all you're doing. Now there's a space in between that's important everywhere. And I've talked to you guys for years about Shiva Samhita, but I've never really opened up because I'm not a guru and I won't teach it. You won't ever see me come on here with that. I love it personally. I study it personally. It's not a very big book. It's not a lot to read, but I revisit it a lot because there's a lot of subtle things there. And a lot of contradicting things. Like Lord Shiva says constantly that this is private. This is so private. Please don't teach it. Yet he goes on talking. But the essence is the pulling into oneself is always magnetized. The externalization of energy always tends to decrease our energy, actually, but the space in between is somehow very special. And the meeting place between two things is always very, very critical, important. Okay, so this is that metabolic point. This is that point where the homeostasis of the cosmos, you could say, the metabolism, which that little space is Sri Vishnu, the all-pervading consciousness. That little space in between, that is the all-pervading. So how do we think about this as well? Past and future. What's happening, but right now, we've done this video, but we can't get back the minutes before. Right now, like if you read the Gita, everything's about this moment because it's practical. This is where you can centralize your energy. If your energy goes there, or if your energy goes in front of you, it's not as effective. So the Ashwins are some kind of miraculous energy within us, you could say. People with this nakshatra, very prominent, have a tremendous force that they can apply. They can either apply it to invention like Tesla. See, the normal birth time may give him the 29 degrees Revati. However, it's Ashwini. If you look at it on the, if you go to an astronomy program, it's the tip of Aries coming up over the horizon. It's actually what Togi showed. So, so you can get an inventor, because once again, channelizing energy. You can get a revolutionary war leader. You've got all of these guys. I even think, oh God, what's his name? Is right? Napoleon. Okay, then you get the notorious people like Hitler, Che Guevara that I mentioned earlier. But you get all these people who tend to centralize their energy and move something, move a big force. Okay, now it can be in any direction. It can even be in health and beauty products. You know, it can be in any of that, because the rejuvenization in this nakshatra is immense. There's actually two twins, two female twins. I can't remember their name. Dr. Paiji, when I was actually part of your class, I did their charts for everyone. We found their birthday. They had some kind of discovery with the rejuvenation of cells, of cellular tissue. And it's two female twins. They were responsible, and they were, sure enough, they were Ashwins. So this Kaya Kalpa that you're talking about, everything, and these are all secret things. These Vidyas are all secret. The Ashwins are the actual bringing together of those two opposites to that middle point, or using those two opposites for the perfect amount of friction. Think about breath. Breath is a friction. Most things have a friction. It produces a tremendous amount of electricity, and then there's a power. So when you think of Ashwini, think of power. Actually, this is why Surya, and I don't mean power in the toxic sense. A lot of those of us who study an esoteric topic or study anything spiritual, the word power is very tainted because it's often associated with some negative connotation. But here I'm just speaking of pure energy, raw energy, force, horsepower. Think about it. Think about vehicles, and I'm sure Sandeep Ji is going to talk about vehicles. But it is a sign that we've actually joked about, liking cars, having fast cars, race car drivers, people like this, people who literally grew up around horses. You'll hear this so many times. I'm sure all of you do. People that grew up on a farm or around animals, like Dr. Paiji was saying. There's a lot of literal things to this, but let's take the Ucha sun for a minute, and then I'm done. So the Ucha sun, why is sun Ucha? And I love what Dr. Paiji said about polarities, Nicha, Ucha, same thing. Just please, guys, no hang up on this. The nightmare of a person can have 4 Ucha grahas, so it does not make a good person. Please don't mistake that. But Surya, separate of people, separate of personalities, let's say for humanity, what does it mean? For all of us, not just this little self here. For all of us, what does it mean that the rishis say that Surya is Ucha in Ashwini? What do you think? So I'm actually really asking you guys because I've meditated on it, contemplated on it, I should say, but only thing that I really feel or sense with this, Surya is that singular authority of self. He's all things singular, even though he's the thing that splits off and becomes two. It's tricky, but he is the gathered force there. He is the singular, he's natural Atma Karka, right? Stira Atma Karka for everyone. And he's Atma Jyoti, right? So he's Atma Jyoti, or the light of the Atma, you could say. And he's also linked with Nod. As Dr. Paiji was saying, the horses of his chariot are each one is, music. He's actually linked with sound. So there's something they're trying to say here, that the essence of who Surya Devata is, who is Surya? Who is Surya? Is it only this physical sun here, or what are they talking about? It can be this physical sun, actually. But what are they talking about when they're having him Ucha and Ashwini? Why the rituals done at this point? Because all those opposites, all those junction points together, coming to one and forced into the center, this is where the horsepower is. So if you want to achieve anything in this world, and how many athletes do we see with this, guys? Athletes, professional competitors, fighters, dancers, it's just people who somehow channel their energy. I have seen more professions under Ashwini that are diverse than almost any nakshatra. The one commonality between all of them is they're always looking for this somehow, whether they're looking to go fast in their car. I mean, I would say Mesha Rashi in general tends to like motorcycles and cars and stuff. I don't know what it tends to be. Mesha in general, it tends to be Aries in general. Maybe it's something to do with Mangal, I don't know, but Ashwini specifically, like speed, things like that. But what are they? They're looking for some kind of enthusiasm. And so I would always encourage Ashwini people to never lose when something starts putting a cork on the bottle and you start feeling like you're in prison, you know, like a horse that's in a stable. You know, you may want to look at how you can loosen that for yourself and gather your energies back to yourself. I notice that a lot of Ashwini people, sometimes you will find, and I'm trying to get out of this kind of astrology because I feel like people obsess about it and we're missing something. We're missing something by doing this. So please forgive me. I'm going to sin against my own feelings, but I have seen statistically a lot of Ashwini people end up with either, you know, a very caretaking type partner that kind of takes care of them, or someone who completely oppresses them and kills their spirit. You know, or situations where there's this kind of wanting to pull the reins. Please don't think I'm saying anything bad about your partner. It's not that. It's something about what you're supposed to learn, I think. It's not that you're supposed to throw your partner out. You're supposed to be mature with this and not impatient, which is a classical quality they say of Ashwins is that they're so fast. They can break off things too quickly, do things, you know, without thinking, somehow get lucky a lot of times when they do that, like those risk takers that will just jump off a cliff and somehow live. This is an Ashwini person. Some of these like Evil Knievel, we should look at his chart. I don't have his chart, but someone should find it. Let's see if we have any Ashwini or any, but we've got to have some Mangal going on, but someone should find it. But yeah, these people that just kind of miraculously get lucky or live through this, yes, because these guys are miracle workers. They're considered miracle workers. However, however, you know, in personal life and all of that, this sign actually, you know, it just needs to be careful to guard its own space. Please guard your own space and keep your youthfulness, keep your fun of some sort, because this is part of you. It doesn't mean to go and, you know, make your partner uncomfortable, of course, but this is something I have seen. And one last thing on this is that, you know, interestingly enough, you will see Ashwini a lot in the charts of people who literally are, you could say, princesses, kings, queens, things like that. It is actually a very royal nakshatra. The Ketu nakshatras tend to be, as I've said, Mula tends to be a billionaire nakshatra. I mean, it's common. It's not all the time, but you'll see it quite commonly. Magha, Ashwini, these in Vimshotri Dasha, these ones that are ruled by Ketu, because Ketu actually ends up being Matsya avatar, and that has to do with lineage. He's the one that saves the rishis and makes sure the human race survives. So all the Ketu nakshatras naturally are Brahma Trimurti, and they all have to do with bloodline and things like that. So you will see a kind of elitist side to Ashwini sometimes. And thrift spending. I have seen this. I have seen real thrift spending. They need a miser around them. So if they get with another partner, oh, God forbid they get with Mula. But I've seen this actually. I'm joking, guys. If anyone has this and it doesn't apply, please don't worry. That means it's not affecting you. But you will see these kind of things where one will influence the other. So Ashwini and Mula, for instance, they can actually, this is a pair. And these are secrets that I haven't really shared. These are just statistics that I've gathered the data on through research throughout the years. And I've seen that some of these nakshatras together will encourage the other one's excess. And so, it's okay if they're encouraging the excess of fun, as long as, you know, the parties aren't, once again, draining your vital energies. Because Ashwini, you guys are supposed to be the youthful ones. You're supposed to bring new things to this world in some way. And so if you just drain yourself, you're going to feel, you know, like your purpose is not entirely being fulfilled. You're supposed to be moving a big force, and you need your energies for that. So partying too much, all that stuff, you might want to think about a balance with that. And maybe if a partner's making that go in excess, you guys can talk. But yeah, the thrift spending can be a real place that people get in trouble with Ashwini, like betting, gambling, those kinds of things. I've seen tremendous amounts of the people that will ask me about gambling. I'm actually, people come and ask me the best times to gamble. I laugh about it because there are muhurtas for this. But if you're playing your luck all the time, you got to realize the chances are you're going to lose eventually. So you got to know how to do it intelligently and not just exhaust all the energy. So once again, everything with Ashwini comes back to moderation somehow. This is or finding that place in between. Everything with Ashwini comes to centralizing the power so that it's not too much on this side, too much on the other. And to Sandeep's point, very commonly is about opposites. He's brought up opposite nakshatras a lot. And this is Sandeep ji, this is very true in this case. All of the nakshatras in Tula Rashi and Libra, and all of the nakshatras in Mesha Rashi, these are very distinct pairs. They're actually very distinct, like life and death, like Swati Bharani, like this. So Chitra, Ashwini, the Chitra is very interesting. There's even the relationship with the sun and Vishwakarma. But the bija that Dr. Paiji was talking about, the sperm cell, Chitra, that's the architect. So this Chitra Ashwini that you're talking about, it goes through the channels, Dr. Paiji. So exactly what you were talking about. The whole thing, it's actually the reproductive, but see, Aries and Libra, Mesha and Tula Rashi are two of the most important Rashis really when it comes to life, human civilization. That's why they're Kendras, natural Kendras. All the natural Kendras are so the Makara Karka, this Karka Rashi and Makara, or Cancer and Capricorn, very important. That's the internal and the external. It's nothing but the intimacy and the lack of the public. So they all are like this, self and the other. So those Kendra points right there are really important. And Mesha and Tula Rashi are the most personal in this sense with birth. So anyway, guys, if there's anything you want to add, or
Yes, yeah, I wanted to add some points here. Beautiful presentation, and I wanted to add 2 or 3 more points. One you already spoken about, which is the Ashwini Kumaras are said to be called as Alaukik. Alaukik means wondrous or miracle healers. So that is one word. The other theme that I wanted to bring about with our discussion today is, again, the horses. Now, if you really look at who were the people, during the times of the kings and the Maharajas and people, who were the people who were given access to horses? Not everybody had access to a horse, because maintaining a horse was very expensive. So the kingly, which means king and his family, had access to a chariot and horse. Okay, so that means the king, the queen, the crown prince, or whatever, the princess, all of them have access to the chariot and the horse. Besides them, the horse was made available to the commander-in-chief, the military leader, because if he has to mobilize and quickly move between different corners of the fortress or the the thing, he had to be mobile. So he had access to, so a military person, a commander, or somebody who is a kind of a leader amongst the thing. The other person who had access was a Vaidya, which means a doctor. Why? Is because in times of emergency, he has to be the one who quickly can reach to the palace to administer a first aid or whatever. So he had access to the horses. Then the last person who had access to a horse was a messenger who could probably take the message from one kingdom to another and has to quickly go and reach that message to another kingdom, or a messenger. So these were the four people. So if you really look, that all the professions we are seeing is connected to the Ashwini are all the same. Whether it is the emergency services, which means the fire brigade today, the paramedics, the ambulance services, all of them are
And
connected.
Dr. Pai talked about that in Revati, that Gandanta point being the medical one.
Medical one, exactly. So you see that,
Yes.
so this is more, Ashwini is more the nursing part of it. And you see that, so that will probably clear. And I'm also seen with some of them, I don't know whether I should say this on record or no. All these people are uniformed services, which means you see, the paramedics has a particular uniform, nurses who have a particular uniform.
Oh, uniform. Armies have uniforms.
Army uniforms, yeah, army's uniform.
I've never thought of that, Dr.
Yeah,
Pai. You're right.
Firefighters uniform, ambulance uniform, all of these are uniform services. And I have seen a uniform fetish as well for some people with this nakshatra. Okay, something to do with uniform. Okay, so this is why I said I don't know whether I should say that on record or no, but that's definitely
maybe no uniform.
That is probably a different fetish for some people.
For Togi, no uniform. Ladu.
So yeah, so that is the thing that I've seen with this nakshatra. Okay, then the other thing I've also seen is very surprisingly, you would see in Indian marriages, you need a female horse to come to a marriage. It's called Bharat. Why would you need a ghodi, to come sitting on a horse? So maybe that is also, if you see, for all the Ketu's nakshatras, Venus nakshatras become the Sampat. That's the second one. And if you know that only 3 grahas in the Gayatri mantra of 3 grahas, the horse is their flag. Do you know which are the 3 grahas which have horse as their flag in the Gayatri mantra? One is very common, it is the sun. Shukra is the second, and the third is Ketu.
I didn't know that about Ketu. I did know about Shukra. Oh, interesting.
They all have Ashwa Dhwajas. Their Gayatri mantra starts with Ashwa Dhwajaya Vidmahe for the Surya.
Horse flag. Yeah.
Okay. If you all see them, they are the 3 consecutive nakshatras, which is Ketu would be Ashwini, then we have Venus, which is Bharani, and then we have Kritika, which is Sun. Right?
And the Agni Rashi.
Agni Rashi, exactly. They're in the Agni Rashi as well. So very surprising that. And horse is also a fire kind of element, can be associated, because horses are most active during when all animals, it's mid-afternoon, around 11 to 1 o'clock. The horse is the most active animal. While you see the cats and the dogs, they're actually, because of the sun, they are very relaxed, they are very tired. They play around very lot in the morning, but then they're tired, they just rest, cats and dogs. But you see the most active animal during that, when the sun is in the 10th house. At mid-afternoon, the sun is in the
Abhijit Muhurt.
Yeah, during Abhijit Muhurt, the horses are most active animal. That's yeah, exactly. That's why Abhijit Muhurta horses are very active. That's why marriages are usually in South India are done in Abhijit Muhurta. And that's why you sit in a Bharat and you come on a horse. Mostly in the South India, not in the North. North India, they also have early morning muhurtas for their weddings as well. In the South India, they will never do marriages after sunset. Only when the sun is rising, and mostly it is Abhijit Lagan and Abhijit Muhurta usually it is. Okay, so that is one more point. Then there are deities which are sitting on horses. Now, what is very surprising is we have seen so many avatars of Vishnu. Why is only the last avatar is going to come sitting on a horse, which is Kalki? It's another thought you should get. Kalki avatar comes sitting on a horse. But you have got all other animals which are also where he has taken the form, right from Matsya, Kurma. Then we have, a Varaha, which is the wild boar. Then we have Narasimha. So you see, all of these animals have been taken in the first initial form, but he's coming sitting on a horse in the last avatar, which is Kalki, which is yet to come, which means is something, if you look, we know in the Graha system, each of the Navagrahas are associated with each of the Dasha avatars of Vishnu. We know, as you said, Shukra avatar of Vishnu is Parashurama. Surya is Rama. Moon is Krishna. So what is Kalki then? Kalki is our Lagna. He'll represent the Lagna of our chart. Okay. Now, then all of these deities we worship who have a human body and a face of an animal are called as Vedamurtis. And I feel that Vedamurtis are best forms of worship for Ashwini Nakshatra, which means you should worship the elephant called Ganapati. He's got an elephant's head. Hanuman. Then we have Hayagriva, which is, with a horse's head. Then Narasimha avatar, lion's head. Varaha avatar, wild boar head. Then we have, Daksha, who is also given a goat head. Actually, Aries is actually the sign of Daksha. Because if you Daksha Prajapati was given a goat's head, ram's head. Why? By Shiva. Because his daughters are given to Chandra, right? All the nakshatra, and the nakshatras are his daughters, Daksha's daughters. So he's holding the first house, Daksha Prajapati. Okay, so they are all the Veda Murti. So when you see all the Brahma Trimurti nakshatras, which is Ketu, Moon, and Jupiter's nakshatras are Brahma Trimurti. So in these Brahma Trimurti nakshatras, it is best to worship Veda Murtis because Brahma doesn't have any worship. See, Shiva Trimurti, Vishnu Trimurti, you can always go to Vishnu and Shiva. But what about Brahma? Because Brahma has no worship. Worship the Veda Murtis, which is, Narasimha, Varaha, Hayagriva, then you have Hanuman, Ganesha. So these are the deities we worship. And there is also a deity which in the south part of India, which is said to be an avatar of Dharma Shastra, which is Ayyappa Swami. In Tamil Nadu, they show Ayyappa Swami sitting in a horse. He's called as Ayanar. I don't know how many of you heard of Ayanar, but he comes sitting on a horse.
Ayyappa, I also thought is he with tigers?
Yeah, he is the tiger in the Kerala tradition. If you go, he's called as Tamil Nadu.
So the story goes in Kerala that he was asked by his mother to bring in milk from a tigress actually. So that was the story. But he is associated with the horse though. So he came back to his mother riding the tiger and the tigress. But then he's still linked with the horse as the animal though. That's true. Yeah.
He's called Ashwaruda Shastra. Ashwaruda Shastra. Ashwaruda means mounted on a horse. So if you are worshipping that form, also is very good. Ayyappa Swami. People go to Shabarimala to worship him on the mountain top. So that is another form that you can also worship in as an alternative to Ashwini Kumaras in today's times, because Kalki Avatar is yet to come. Okay, so these were some of my observations that I wanted to share in addition to whatever you have been speaking about. Okay, Aditya and
Thank you,
Santhip.
Dr. Some of it I didn't know. Yeah, guys, who wants to share anything?
Yeah, no, that's interesting, Yuji. I think what you shared about the yogic thing was very interesting, very fascinating actually. So how that Saraswati can be linked with Ashwin and all that was very interesting. Even Lakshmi can be linked with that, and Durga being the actual Shakti who's like moving and all that, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm thinking I'm the only person left.
Which
Go ahead.
she shared, because opposite to Ashwini is also what? Chitra Swati.
That's correct, yeah.
So Swati is again connected to Saraswati,
That's correct.
goddess of learning and all.
Right. Yeah, of course. And also Saraswati is representing the ascending kind of thing, as is mentioned. You're kind of going upwards, which is what Yuji was talking about, which was very interesting actually. Now, okay, so Ashwini Nakshatra is a long thing. It was very fascinating actually for me to observe the omens around Ashwini, right? So let's start with that. So like one was that not many people are aware, but we did try to schedule this last week, but then we had to reschedule it again, right? So usually Ashwini Nakshatra natives, from that simple perspective, you can say the first attempt will actually have some challenges, which is guaranteed to happen, but second attempt could be successful just because of Purnava. If you think about that, Purnavasu Nakshatra becomes the Naidana Nakshatra for these natives actually. So there might be some challenges there and so forth. That is one aspect. Of course, karma, the health and healing and all that. So if you're having, these natives will be miraculously cured, but they'll have some health issues. Could be the perennial cold, sore throat, all that typical thing that can happen. So again, what was interesting is also all the Ketu nakshatras can also be linked with the Rahu nakshatras also. So if you think about that, that pairing is very interesting. You can see that, so there's still not a cure for common cold, right? So cold can be linked with the Rahu, Ardra and all that, throat and all that. So some virus problem, all that kind of thing is there, which is very, very interesting in that way. Now, then of course, the very interesting moment which happened last time was that, so Dr. Pai and Aditya were sharing the same food actually, which was very, very interesting in my eyes. So Dr. Pai and Aditya was the food called as Puliodare. So I think Puliodara is the South Indian food in which you mix a lot of herbs. It's very healthy actually. If you look at the ingredients, there's a lot of cinnamon, there's a lot of good stuff in there, which is very good. So it was very interesting actually. So basically this concoction of food, which is kind of a mix of many things, which is good. So Chavanpraj actually. Chavanpraj was, as Dr. Pai mentioned, 54 herbs are coming together and all that. A lot of herbs are coming together. So there are some very powerful medicines, for powerful ordinary things which can be very healing in long term. So could be that these natives might be eating food, traditional food, which is having all these healing components to it. Like you add like in India, you might be adding multiple masalas if you're having a food, which perhaps bring its own healing and all that. That's a very interesting thing, So that's one fascinating thing I thought was interesting. And also earlier today, we talked about, it was fascinating that these natives, of course, this is a Mars rule Rashi. Mars Multragon is falling here also, which is very important. So these natives will have karma with metals, as it's called. Metals being like could be a frying pan, could be they might get cut by knife, or they now of course the Aries natives will be hitting the head more often, very often actually. Ashwini Nakshatra natives for sure, they are more likely to get head injury kind of thing, or hit their head when they are walking across the door and so forth. That kind of thing is a very common thing for Aries, So that is also one more thing. The other thing is also, Yuji mentioned about vehicles and so forth. So we did talk about UFOs and all that, right? So definitely this vehicle kind of thing is also fascinating. So they would want the fastest vehicle, as it's called. Now, vehicle is a very fascinating thing, right? So like, for instance, of course, you have a car, well, you have a cycle, you start with cycle, then of course you have no cycle, then you go to the next vehicle in that range is a bike or a scooter or something like that. And then of course a motorcycle. And beyond that, you'll go to a car. Now, of course, amongst the car, you'll go for luxury brand and all that. And, luxury brands, starting from Maruti all the way to Rolls Royce and all that, right? So, of course, in between, you have the Lamborghini and all that. Lamborghini, Porsche and all that. Which is a typical thing for these natives. These natives would want to own a Porsche. These natives would want to own a Lamborghini. They would want their own Dodge and all that. That kind of typical thing is very strong here, actually, with vehicles and so forth. This love for vehicles, as it's called. Now, so all those are very interesting omens, and especially foreign vehicles and so forth, foreign brand and all that. There'll be a strong fascination there actually. Now coming to the other points which I wanted to talk about. Now, first of all, I want to address this idea of Ganapati actually. So Ganesha is the very powerful deity here because his head was the one. His head is actually cut off by Shiva, none other than Shiva also. Ganesha is a very, very powerful remedy for these natives. So worship of Ganesha in any form. There are 32 forms, 108 forms, Ashtaganapati, all that forms of Ganesha is extremely powerful for these natives to worship actually. Now, Ganapati is also interesting because he is also considered as the Pati amongst the Ganas, which is a very, very powerful idea. So like, if you think about that, this could also be like in my opinion, the first, anything first, and you're doing anything first, you are always invoking Ganapati. You're moving into new home, Ganapati home has done. You start a new office, Ganapati home has done. So Ganapati is always invoked in that way. So Ganapati is a very important date in that way. So similarly, any kind of enterprise, when it's beginning, Ashwini natives will be present. So it could be that this is the first conversation between two co-founders of a startup who's actually wanting to start something. So, they might be carrying Ashwini Nakshatra energy, like, the twin energy, right? So two people are talking about the same idea, they're building that thing. So this is a very, very quite often you will find Ashwini Nakshatra natives are very much linked with startups and so forth. And of course, most of the startups you will find is built within the family. It's between brothers actually, so like elder brother and younger brother forming a company. That kind of thing you begin to see a lot actually. So the other side of Ashwini Nakshatra is also, of course, this brotherly energy, the startup energy, this Ganesh energy is very much present for these natives. Now, the other interesting side of Ashwini is that it is linked with kings, as it's called. So sun is actually getting exalted here. One of the points which Dr. Pai once mentioned was that because these natives were the children of sun, who's considered amongst the king amongst the grahas, the king of the grahas actually. So they are the children of Surya actually. So they have this royalty thing within them. One way or the other, that royalty thing is there, which was very interesting when Dr. Pai made this connection with Arabia and horses also. So you still see that royalty presence is very strong in that Arabia land and so forth. There are still kings there are still kingdoms there. It's still being maintained and so forth. And what was funny about the vehicle part is that when the Saudi Arabian team defeated, Argentina, the World Cup victory, the Saudi Arabian king gifted each of the Saudi players a Rolls Royce, literally from for defeating the World Cup winners and so forth. So you can see that. So kings would have this natural thing with vehicles. They would want a vehicle collection. And of course, they would honor the warriors, as it's called. So warriors, for instance, is Mars actually. So Mars is having this Multragon here, but sun is also getting exalted. That's a very, very important point. You see those particular influence playing out very easily also. So this karma with sun is a very interesting thing. So of course, sun is getting exalted here. So definitely there will be karma with their father in their life. Karma with father figures actually. They themselves could be under being leaders, and default karma with bosses is expected in this native. And of course, they themselves might be bosses. They themselves might be working with the government. They might be working at the highest level with the CEOs and so forth. That kind of high level of management, top executive kind of karma. That's a normal karma here with these natives. Now, what is interesting about kings again is that usually you find the idea of bloodline kind of thing. So things that are passed down the blood. Now that's a very, very powerful idea in Ashwini Nakshatra. Now, not only blessings can be passed down the blood, curses can also be passed down the blood. So the curse of the ancestor, the blessings of the ancestors, both can be passed down. So in some cases, this can be linked with mantra siddhis actually. So the ancestor chanted a mantra for Vishnu or Shiva or something. The grandchild is actually picking up that mantra like anything. Grandchild has a natural affinity towards those deities, and quite often that mantra siddhi ability is also being passed on. So not only that, these natives might actually be able to do the same deed which their ancestor did, but in a more powerful way actually. So that's the other aspect also. So if their ancestor actually got attained a powerful position in the village or powerful position in the government and so forth, good chance that these natives might be able to do it. And one thing which Dr. Pai once mentioned in this class is that these natives end up being immortal, or they have an aspect of an ancestor who was immortal. So that what that means is that an ancestor who was very famous, to that point that there are still generations, even now, that is being talked about, that is talking about that particular ancestor. So like a royalty ancestor was a king, an ancestor was a village chief, an ancestor was a head priest of a particular temple or so forth, or someone who had a lot of land, someone who was very rich and who was very generous to the community, things like that. So you begin to see these kind of qualities playing out very, very strongly. Now, so many times what you see here is also, many times the gifts that are passed down the blood can also be shamanic in nature. So I think I mentioned about shamans with Revati also, but you'll find a lot of shamans with Ashwini Nakshatra. And of course, you'll find that these natives will not only have the gift of channeling gods and goddesses, they might be shamanic in their traditions. So traditions that you have to belong to a particular family to get the blessings and so forth. So this was very interesting. I recently came to know about certain temples, especially in Kerala and probably around India also, where of course they did a Swarna Prashna, as it's called, to identify what's going on in the temple, which deity and so forth. Is there any problems with the temple and all that? So the astrologer who did the Prashna was basically telling used to be, now this is a temple where goddess Kali was worshipped, but that too in a very intense way. So like you would sacrifice roosters, you'd get the chicken and all that. It's a very direct thing. But then they said that the temple was originally used to open their services to all the people of the community. But eventually the astrologer said only the people linked with the family is going to really get benefit out of the temple. So it's like kind of pointless to open up their services to the rest of the world kind of thing actually. So it's a very fascinating thing to see how people linked with the blood of the original ancestors who established that particular deity are able to hold those services, are able to get the blessings also. So sometimes blessings restricted within family. It's a very powerful thing, but it can exist. Though the duty of the king is to serve the community, the leadership dharma might be passed down the family. That kind of karma can actually play out very strongly here. So this shamanic energy and so forth. And now what was very fascinating here, in the same temple, which I came to find out about, the rituals only happened once a year. They didn't have any monthly ritual. They didn't have any daily ritual. Once a year, these families, they would invite this big one particular clan, a priest belonging to a particular clan. He would come do this Shakti puja, as it's called, and it's very, you're offering meat and all that. So he does his job, he leaves, and that's it. But once a year. Now, this is very interesting because sun is the planet linked with year actually. The sun is getting exalted in Ashwini Nakshatra. So events that are happening annually. So we talked about the New Year and so forth, but events that is happening once a year, which is giving you big impact. So the birth year of the nation. So like the birthday, Independence Day of a country, Independence Republic Day, for instance, or like, or in smaller community terms, the day for the village temple to get the blessings and so forth. So that kind of thing you begin to see. Now, what was further fascinating is that, what they said is that whoever could enter into this temple, the first time if someone is entering into this main Garbhagriha or the main shrine of this temple, they have to blind themselves with betel leaves. They should cover their eyes with betel leaves, and then they should enter into the temple. Once they are inside, they should open it up, and then they should see the peat of the goddess, where the goddess is sitting. So it's very interesting. You find some temples in Kerala like that, where the priests do not allow others to see certain deities. It's an actual thing. Like there is a story of, I think it's Kodungalur or something, where there is a statue behind the main deity, which only those who are initiated can actually see. And if others see it, there was a story of someone who saw the deity. He just literally ran into the well and just jumped into the well actually. So he just could not handle that Shakti which that deity gave. So sometimes it could be for an actual reason why certain traditions were passed down, certain families and so forth, because the energy could be dangerous also. Now, for Ashwini Nakshatra native, there's a common thing. They are very familiar with danger. They already, put themselves in danger multiple times. They have learned from the problems which they experienced also. That is a common thing. But this idea of like, blinding was a pure Ashwini theme which you could see. You had to become Ashwini natives, the story of blindness and deaf, not to be blind and not to be deaf. But there's a very Shakti component to it also, when you actually become blind and you're taking the first sight of a particular deity. Now, even when a prana pratishtha of a particular deity is being done, the main priest will actually blind himself first. He'll be doing mantra japa and so forth. He'll blind himself first. And then when the prana pratishtha is being done, he'll actually open his eyes so that the prana literally goes from the eyes to the murti that is being established. So this karma, eyes and blindness could be more than many things. So sometimes it could be possible that someone is looking into the other person's eyes and that person sees what the other person is thinking and what's happening in their lives and so forth. So that could be many other aspects. So this Shakti dynamic need not happen just with establishing deity. It can be linked with other aspects of life also. Very, very powerful thing actually. Now the other fascinating thing we talked about twins and so forth, and definitely Ashwini Nakshatra natives are more likely to have a twin. So you are more likely to have a twin sister, twin brother. Karma twins can be very strong. But there is also a very interesting idea about twins in the sense of, even if you are a Ashwini Nakshatra person, you might be always spending time with a friend. It's almost like you and your friend are one unit. So it's like if a startup is being found by someone, that person, and the co-founder will always be one unit. So you begin to see this twin sibling kind of relationship, or twin brother, almost like this twin brother kind of relationship playing out also. Now, what is very fascinating is that sometimes there are certain temples where there are sibling gods and goddesses in that same temple. So this could actually be like Ganapati or Subramanya. So sibling bond is there. Though it's not though they're not twins per se, they are still siblings in that temple. So temples where siblings are kept. That's a very specific Ashwini Nakshatra concept. Now, the other aspect is that you actually find temples where there are elder goddess and the younger goddess. So karma with these kind of goddess temples also exists. So going to those temples which is carrying this Ashwini Nakshatra energy is also very, very powerful. And of course, what you find is that there are some of these temples here in Kerala also, where when the main goddess, the shaman, comes wearing the dress of the goddess, the elder sister will have a sword fight with the younger sister, and that'll be the main attraction kind of thing. When what is called as the Teyyam and Tira and all that, as it's called locally in Kerala. So you find that kind of aspect in which, and the sword is involved. Sword is again Mars. A weapon is involved between these goddesses also. So Mars, of course, is very interesting because Mars is actually considered as goddess Kali as well in Kerala. So if you find Mars involved, Kerala would actually look at goddess Kali as Mars actually, though she might be linked with other planets. Kali is actually having a Mars component. Bhagavati, as it's called, is having a Mars component. Now, Mars is fascinating again because Mars is also Bhumi Karka. Now, some of these temples, there is a requirement where if the temple is being done, the land should at least get some blood of the rooster that is sacrificed. So sometimes that can be harsh. So sometimes you get into you purchase a land purchase and so forth, people end up getting hurt. Something like that might be happening. There might have been a history of a deity who might have been asking for sacrifices and so forth. And that's a very common problem across India actually. You find people whose ancestors might have done a lot of sacrifices, then you stop doing the sacrifices, and the god is like, where is my blood? So then people end up dying in the family and all that. That can actually happen. That's a problem actually. Sometimes you see that particular thing going on. That's an actual thing going on also. But like I said, so sometimes they say that sometimes problems coming because of certain land. That's a common Ashwini Nakshatra problems also. So like, for instance, you get some land which is carrying some of these goddess energies and so forth. You put that to, make your garden or landscaping or whatever. And then after that, all the problems are coming in your life. So that kind of thing can also be linked with Ashwini, in my opinion, because it's a Mars thing. Mars is Bhumi Karka, and problems can also be linked with Mars. Now, Mangal is called as auspicious graha by its name, but Mangal is also what I like to call as the divine mess, right? Mesharashi is famous for creating a mess out of things. But Mangal is a planet that will actually create a mess that is divine. So there is a problem which they will create, but behind that, there'll be some bigger thing, some bigger plan that is actually happening. So that's the other aspect which you begin to see here with Ashwini Nakshatra natives, because many times these natives are very impulsive. They do things without thinking. All that personality traits is there. But behind that, you see this grand thing. They are a start of something big that is actually coming. So that's the other aspect you begin to see also. Now, Mars is interesting here again, because Mars is also, if you were to look at, talk about Indras and Indriyas, the taste thing, the sense of taste as it's called, you would probably link Mars with spices. And Ashwini Nakshatra is connected with healing. So the more spices you eat, the more healing energy you actually get. But among the spices, some of these hottest spices out there. So people who have a preference for very, very hot spices, big pepper, they have to put a lot of pepper and a lot of chilies and so forth in there, what they're eating. That's an Ashwini thing that you begin to see. Now, the other aspect is that actual shamans in South America and all that, they actually have these very heavy cayenne pepper and all that, so that they could stimulate, they eat a lot of spices, so they are actually stimulated into a trance. In that trance state, they are actually communicating with their ancestors, gods and goddesses and so forth. So spices can be linked with health also. So eating a lot of spices can actually be quite good also. But you'll see these natives will have karma with spices. Either, depending upon the planet, either they might go for a lot of spices, or depending upon the planet, they might hate spices. They cannot handle spices also. That kind of thing can also happen. That's the other aspect here. So cayenne pepper and all that, healing benefits of cayenne pepper and all that is very, very powerful. Now, amongst the food also, I think it was Aditya who talked about honey. Now, there is something in honey which is very fascinating. So usually the alcohol which we get is like either barley, that is the fermented barley kind of thing. The liquid which you get from barley is the alcohol actually. That's a Rahu thing. You can easily get that. But there is something called as honey mead. The alcohol which is received from, which is made from honey actually. Now, honey mead used to be Now, there are some blogs online, whatever, right? YouTube videos online and saying that perhaps the ancient Amrit could have been linked with honey mead, actually. There are some ideas out there. Now, of course, Amrit is having deeper symbols and so forth, all that is there. But the idea that honey mead is a very powerful thing, and alcohol derived from honey. And what is very interesting is that it used to be in villages and so forth, they would actually get alcohol made from jaggery that is offered to Shiva. So that is commonly offered to Bhairava and so forth. So the alcohol made from honey or the honey mead used to be a drink that was offered to the old warrior gods like Odin and Norwegian gods and so forth. They would actually be offered honey mead actually. In fact, one way in Chinese culture, how they honor the ancestors, if you see a lot of Chinese TV shows and all that, they will offer alcohol on the ground. Then you know that, okay, you are honoring the ancestor by offering alcohol to the ground. So that is the other way also, you see. So this karma meat kind of thing. So honey meat can be quite healthy also. Turns out if you drink just a shot of honey meat, if that is offered to a god or goddess, it can improve your health. It can stimulate your health. It's one of the most energetically very powerful drinks out there, which makes sense also. So that is also one thing with Ashlesha. Now the other aspect with Ashlesha is that it is actual Amrit component. So there are certain places which are immortal actually. Some institutions that are beginning. So like certain companies like IBM, for instance, big company is never going to die. So you see that companies that have been there for immortal. Now, well, Apple is almost getting to that status, but God knows what future will bring. But some companies that has always been there. So that kind of companies, karma institutions that are always considered to be immortal, like government institutions, that kind of thing, or the founding museum of a particular particular science or whatnot. All that particular thing can always be, all those institutions which are considered to be immortal can be linked with that. So Amrit is a metaphorical concept, but has its practical side to it also, something that can be looked into. Now, there are certain gods and goddesses which can be linked with Ashwini Nakshatra also, which I want to highlight. One is, of course, I talked about Ganesha. He is the Om among the mantras. He is the one who is invoked amongst all the gods and goddesses and so forth. Now, there are certain deities. Dr. Pai already mentioned Hayagriva actually. So Hayagriva is very powerful as well, especially for knowledge. So I remember Dr. Pai would actually chant mantras of Hayagriva also, whenever he would teach also. So Hayagriva is a very powerful deity, but it is very fascinating because one very famous stotram which Hayagriva has actually passed on, and which is still very famous, which is called as a Moksha Vidya Stotram also. The stotram itself can take you towards moksha, is Lalita Sahasranama. Now, Lalita Sahasranama, of course, is the Sahasranama for the goddess and so forth. So usually you find that. So all the goddesses do accept Lalita Sahasranama. Now, what is fascinating about Lalita Sahasranama itself, that stotram itself is so powerful that the Rishi of that particular stotram is supposed to be a goddess herself actually. Vagdevata is the Rishi actually for that particular stotram. So that itself shows that there are many levels which the Devas are probably using it, something which the humans might not have learned about it also. So there's a deeper esoteric thing with all these Sahasranam also. So Lalita Sahasranama and Lalita, so there is of course the goddess Lalita Ambika and all that, who is definitely a very powerful goddess here and so forth. Now all this goddess, there can be a natural goddess karma. Here is something I want to highlight. The Shakti aspect can be stronger here, is something I can highlight with Ashwini Nakshatra. Now, there is also two more goddesses who I think can be linked actually. One is this goddess called as Dhumavati. Now, Dhumavati is actually very natural, makes sense. She might perhaps be linked with Shani or Ketu and whatnot. Now, but from at least on the name, the Dhuma is and Vati is there. So, Dhuma can also mean smoke. So Dhumavati is a goddess who is considered to give like a lot of problems in your life. So be cautious is one of the things they say when you're worshipping Dhumavati actually. But Dhumavati, what I thought was very fascinating about Dhumavati is that she is called as Kalaha Priya. She likes Kalaha. She likes to create fights actually. So that's one aspect. So people who likes to fight. So people who likes getting into bar fights, people who like getting into fights and so forth, right? That kind of people might actually, you might see those kind of quality of, they might be drawn towards these goddesses very quickly also. So Dhumavati is a very powerful goddess like that. Now there is also another goddess like that among the Dasha Mahavidyas, under a goddess is Chinnamasta actually. And Chinnamasta is a very direct Ketu thing because her head is getting cut off. And of course she's drinking the blood and all that is there. So blood of course being Mars and so forth, you can see that particular aspect. Now, coming to some more aspects. Now, so Evji mentioned about the names like Ashwini being a feminine version and so forth. Now, usually, if you have a graha in Ashwini Nakshatra, these natives will have karma with people whose names are like Ashwini, Ashwati, Ashley, all the Ash kind of thing, all that. You'll see that. Anywhere an Ash name is there, good chance they have a karma of that. You'll see Ashwini Nakshatra natives will have that kind of karma. So one way or the other, by having that name, half sound of Ashwini Nakshatra is actually triggering that Ashwini Nakshatra energy in their chart. Whatever Ashwini is there, that is also getting triggered by interacting with natives like that. And you'll see that. So one of the famous medical labs here in the city where I'm in is Ashwini Diagnostics actually. So you see this kind of natives who have Ashwini Nakshatra ending up going there and all that. That kind of thing you can see. Of course, that is also bringing this very interesting idea of certain herbs with those names. So Ashwagandha as it's called. Ashwagandha is a very powerful herb, great for building your immunity, all that good stuff. So natives might be taking ashwagandha and all that. Now, ashwagandha, if you take it, it's considered to be like one of those cognitive improving drugs and all that. So all that is there. Increase your immunity, increase your brain power, all that is there. I remember that because I used to take it so that I could finish my PhD thesis in one go. So just so that I could get one of those super pills so I could sit down and write my thesis and all that. So that was a big thing. I used to work. Now there are other herbs like that. There is other powerful herbs like that called like ginkgo biloba and all that. So all this cognitive, I forget the name for it. Now you find these new kind of drugs for that, which all these executives, high-end people are actually taking it actually, so that they can perform well, they could be efficient and all that. You begin to see karma those also. Now the Ashwini Nakshatra is also the tree which Aditya mentioned is the poisoner tree. Now that is a very interesting, I had a interesting story with that, where I met one of these shamans here actually. And the shaman actually said, okay, you need some protection. So what he did was that he actually asked me to take my hair, burn some of my hair with some of the branches of the Ashwin, the tree linked with the Ashwini Nakshatra, which is the poisoner tree. So I had to take my hair, burn my hair with the branches of this Ashwini. And I got he said, you wear that ash for 7 days straight. So the ash you would get from the hair and the Ashwin tree, the bust which you would get with that if you start wearing that was actually a very good way to protect yourself. Now, when I came back home and when I realized this is actually a tree for Ashwini Nakshatra, it made perfect sense. Because Mars is the planet of protection, Ketu is the ash which you're wearing, and the tree which is Ashwini Nakshatra. So the ash of the tree is having that Ashwini Nakshatra quality to it. It can protect you, it can heal you and all that. That kind of thing is very interesting. So you see that particular aspect also. So of course, the word ash is also which can be linked with Ashwini again. That's also one more aspect there. Now, I didn't mention karma father and father already here because son is Ucha here actually. So there is a default karma there because when you're a child, you are looking up to your father, as it's called. Now, there is also a default karma, siblings here no matter what. Because Mars is having its Multrakon Rashi here, Multrakon points here in Ashwin Nakshatra. So you find that, you see that in the Ashwin Nakshatra, Ashwin Kumars also. They have their sister Usha, who is the one who rides first, and after that, Ashwin Kumars are following. So you see that sibling karma no matter what happening there. So good chance that they might have an elder sister karma, because Usha is actually described as a female, at least from what I know. So that is one aspect. Now, of course, Usha is the link with the sunrise time. So sunrise becomes very, very important for Ashwini Nakshatra natives. Now, if you are in the army and military, you know the routine. You wake up at 4 a.m. before the sun is up. You are working out. You are doing the army military training and all that. So the army people have figured the sunrise part out to improve their health, without a doubt. So if you have a planet in Ashwini Nakshatra, if you're not having a sunrise routine, you're missing out, especially in terms of improving your health. Very quite simple as that. So army people all over the world have figured out that's their default routine everywhere. So that's one thing you're going to see. So usually, and this is also very interesting with regard to what EVG said with regard to, yeah, go ahead, EVG.
Just with what you're saying about sunrise quickly, is you're highlighting the force or the energy that's available in the junction points again.
Yeah.
With Ashwini, because it's the same thing. It's the Sundis, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Exactly correct. So exactly correct. So the sunlight is sunrise is a very powerful time. Same is the case with sunset also, which that energy can be used to access very deep access of reality. The time where the aspect which Dr. Pai was telling about the morning and evening coming together, the internal and external world coming together. When it's coming out in nature, then you have very powerful time to attain some very powerful yogic samadhis and so forth. Now, what I encourage for natives, even if you don't have a plant in Ashwini Nakshatra, one of the best things to do to change your life without fail is to light an exact lamp exactly at sunrise and exactly at sunset. Now, that is a tradition that used to be the normal tradition in India and all that, you light a diya normally. You light a deepam or a diya exactly at sunrise. And it used to be exactly at Sandhya time. Used to be exactly at sunrise. Nowadays, people light it at 8 p.m., which is not sunrise time in India, or people light it at 10 a.m., which is definitely not sunrise time in India. But that's the problem actually. But if you light it exactly at sunrise and sunset time, what happens is that slowly you are enhancing that energy of transformation comes, and you'll begin to see a lot of changes. So this is a very common remedy I say to a lot of people who feel they have nothing going on in their life. They feel directionless. I don't know what I want to do with my life, all that. So this is exactly very powerful, because you'll see that self-knowledge, that Atma Jnana kind of thing, which is symbolized by the light when you're lighting in diya, is actually getting stimulated within you also. So this is a very powerful way where the external rituals is actually stimulating internal world also. That's a very powerful thing in that way. And this is a very, very powerful remedy. I cannot say that enough. I know people who had nothing going in their life started doing this thing. They ended up with jobs in the US and all that. So that kind of thing, it can actually happen, where you are actually getting big opportunities, powerful opportunities, and so forth. Now, the horse is very interesting, because there are a couple of very fascinating thing with horse also, which is, let's put it this way, it's not as much aware. Now, I came across a story where someone was actually telling a story of someone who went crazy. So the thing that was said was that this guy actually used to come back home late, like at 1 a.m. and so forth, at the middle of the night. And then one of the magicians, so this is a story I heard from someone else. The magicians basically said that, okay, look, this guy went crazy because in the night time, the Gandharvas and the gods would be roaming around in the sky, and the spit from the horse specifically fell upon this guy, because of which he went crazy. That's a very, very interesting thing. So the problems that are celestial, the source which is a god or goddess, the source which is a Rahu Ketu domain, not this particular world, a different world kind of thing, can be linked. So the spit, now this is a very important point. If you're spitting upon something, that is a Martian problem, in my opinion. So usually, I mean, Brahmins will have nightmares. You spit something, it's like, okay, your thing has become Ashuddhi and all that. That's what they will actually say, right? So it's not, the Shuddha is gone, the purity is gone. So that's a problem. That's a Martian problem, in my opinion. So sometimes these kind of problems, like you're spitting in a wrong place, you're urinating in a wrong place. You urinate under a tree. Sometimes there is some spirit or tree spirit is on there. You never know what happens. There's some yaksha there. You are possessed with life, problems around that. So sometimes problems because of that. These kind of problems can also be the case. So you have an altar, you're not cleaning that altar, problems around that. Simple as that. Those kind of problems can be linked also with Ashwini Nakshatra. Sometimes if you have malefics there and so forth. That's one aspect I want to highlight. Now, the spit thing of horse was very interesting. Now, horse, in my opinion, and this is a very fascinating thing, because horse is a very powerful animal if you look at it from the nakshatra lens. Horse is linked with both Ashwini Nakshatra and Satabhisha Nakshatra. One is a Ketu Nakshatra, other is a Rahu Nakshatra. So sometimes when you have strong Rahu, Ketu, karmas, planets and so forth, spending time around horses can be extremely healing. Now, I heard from one of these shamans actually, what you can actually ask the horse to show you your future. If you ask your horse, the horse will literally show you your future. If you spend time with horses, it can actually show you your future. So now, of course, in my opinion, you can extend that to dogs also. It can extend that to cats also, in my opinion, because purely they are Rahu Ketu for them. But Ashwini Nakshatra for sure will have this access to the knowledge of past, present, and future. One way or the other, they just know. They have this intuitive knowing, because of which they know this is the right direction to go, this is the wrong direction to go. That's a normal thing. So horses can be very, very powerful psychic creatures, as it's called. So same is the case with Ashwini Nakshatra natives also. Now, the other aspect is that, there are certain times, many times, there are certain things that are taught initially. So initially, when you're teaching something, it is having deeper intentions. So sometimes I've seen in Carnatic Raga and all that, if you're studying Carnatic Raga, one of the ragas that is taught initially is the Maya Malavik Raga and all that. Though it is having a nakshatra-wise, it is not linked with Ashwini, it is linked with, I believe, with Ardra and all that. But that raga is having some stronger Shakti in it. That's one more thing I can say. And of course, the other aspect is that, one of the famous horses in at least the Indian history is the horse which was Rana Pratap's horse, whose name was Chetaka actually. If you look at the sounds, it's very fascinating, because now you find the sounds of Ashwini Nakshatras, Chu, Che, Cho, and La. So you find this Che is the Chetak, Ashwini Pada 2. So Chetak is the horse name which Rana Pratap used. Now Ra is actually the sound linked with Chitra, Pada 3, falling in Libra, exactly opposite to Ashwini Nakshatra. So Rana, if his name was Rana, good, that was his name. Chetak. You find these kind of names actually. So people having karma with Chetan in their life, Chetaka and all that. That kind of Chetan karma you'll see quite often here also because of that. Now, of course, the other sounds are Chu, Che, Cho, and La. So Cho sound, So in Chinese, some of the last names are Cho and all that. So immediately they are having Ashwini Nakshatra, good chance they were warriors, good chance they were healers in their family, good chance they had political leaders and government officials in their family. Immediately you can say just from the sound Cho. Now there are certain temples also. This you can apply this to temples also. If the temple is having Cho sound, good chance, beginning with Cho sound especially, good chance there is a lot of Shakti thing going on there. A place having Cho sound, good chance there is a Ashwini energy there without doubt. That's the other aspect also I would like to highlight. Now so Chetak is one thing. So of course now the brands like Lamborghini would make sense because Chu, Che, Cho, and La. So Lamborghini, right? Lamborghini is you have a Lambo, you don't need to advertise yourself. It's very self-evident, that kind of thing. So Lamborghini people don't advertise their car brand. Neither do Ferrari people advertise car brand. So usually these natives might not like the idea of advertising also because of that. Though it's an Ashwini Nakshatra native, they'll be having that energy. They might not advertise that fact also quite strongly. Now, the other aspect also is the very fascinating aspect which I thought was interesting was the bird which Aditya mentioned. The bird for Ashwini is actually a swan. Now, swan is a very powerful bird actually, very wise bird as it's called because it can separate the milk and the water. So these natives are just like swans. They can understand who is just giving the BS compared to who is actually talking the real thing. They can actually understand that. That's an actual thing that will happen. But what is fascinating from swan from a Jyotish perspective is that one of the most powerful Mahapurush yogas that anyone can have is basically Hamsa yoga, which is basically a swan yoga. So these natives are naturally wise. And swans are a very powerful thing, which actually also can be linked with Hamsa, Dwani, Raga, and all that, in my opinion. And of course, there is a Hamsa Gayatri Mantra, all that. There's a complete Hamsa system, all that is there. There are very powerful systems that are very, very powerful that are out there. Now, the swan is very interesting again because there is a famous story of the ugly duckling actually, right? The duckling that was ugly but turned out to be a swan. So that's the typical story of a Ashwini Nakshatra natives. Initially, they are ugly, they are rejected by the society and all that, but eventually they end up being the swan who is superior to the actual community and all that. To eventually the point where the community might end up looking up to them, which is what Yuji was talking about and all that. So that kind of karma can actually play out through the lens of swan. Now, swan is another kind of animal because you have the black swan actually. Black swan event is supposed to be an event which no one could predict. The COVID thing happening, the market crash of 2008, a big emergency. Now, Ashwini Nakshatra natives love the word emergency because they are probably involved in a lot of emergencies themselves. One way or the other, they are involved with emergency disaster. They are more drawn to disaster management, precautions with our emergency nature. You'll find that kind of thing going on. So we already talked about ambulance and so forth, all that. Now, then of course, usually these nakshatra natives, because Mars is influence and Saturn is getting debilitated in Barney, though they are very hyper in beginning things, these natives also do have a lazy streak to it. Aries are actually good at doing things for sure, but they do have a laziness quality. They have to work because Mars is having Multrakunda, Saturn is getting debilitated here. They love to start, they might not finish, right? That's a big problem also. The other aspect here is, and that's a real problem with these natives, they have to learn to work with that. So many times what they do is that they might actually be more easy to cheat the system, as it's called. They are like, how can we cheat the system? Is there a machine I can create so that I can copy 3 things at the same time? Or is there someone whom I can pay to get the job done, right? That kind of thing is very easy for these natives. You'll find that is a normal thing for Ashwini Nakshatra native, actually. Now, the word la sound la is also interesting because again, the Lalita Sastnamam, Lalita and all that, very powerful thing. So other goddesses with the name La and all that, La, whose name is Lal, good chance you'll see that Ashwini Nakshatra native going on. That energy is there very strongly. Lal is of course red in color also, so makes interesting sense in that. Now, the final point I have to make here with Ashwini Nakshatra is a very fascinating point which I was thinking about. So of course Ashwini Nakshatra is having a karma with heights. Now, they're very, very interesting idea, right? So the Swargaloka is considered to be a loka that is above us, as it's called. So at least that is a reference point. So you have the Bhuloka, then you have the Swargaloka. Of course, you have the other loga, Bhuvarloka in between also. And then above that, you have the Swargaloka. So many times you'll find these natives want to go to the highest point. So that's a common thing we'll be able to see. So many times you'll see they love to travel. They like that being above everything, that seeing everything, that mountaintop view is something they will love. So these are natural hikers. and they'll love to spend time in the Himalayas and so forth, which is very natural for them. The other aspect here is also with mountaintop is that they will love all these helicopters and so forth. So they love to be on top of helicopters and so forth. All that is also one more thing you begin to see. Now, one of the birds that actually fly high up in the sky is that of the eagle. So which was very fascinating when Dr. Pai mentioned that the kite came and swooped in and actually took some Amrit, the Putra Kamashti Yagya, Kir and all that, and took it to the Hanuman's mother and all that. So you begin to see this particular aspect, whether they have some karma with heights, fear of heights, or karma with heights. Now, many times it's said, now this is an interesting theory, that used to be the biggest temple in any town, biggest structure in any town used to be the temple or the spiritual building of that particular land. So the landmark of a particular land, as it's called. So landmark is a very interesting idea, because if the height is linked with gods and goddesses and the worlds above us, so they say that sometimes going to the tallest building and making a prayer can help your prayers get answered quickly, because that building is at least closer to the sky. Making a prayer in the Himalayas might be stronger than making a prayer in the sea side and all that. Sometimes, in some case, so that kind of karma with heights can also play out here. So usually you'll find these natives will be drawn towards skyscrapers and so forth. That kind of thing can happen. Now and of course, now this keeps one very interesting idea out there. The idea is that if you're looking, they do say that sometimes looking at the moon in the nighttime, to avoid looking at the moon through palm leaves, through palm trees, as it's called. So this was something I thought, what's going on here actually? It doesn't make sense. But you look at the moon, palm tree can be considered to be like a Rahu tree. It's having a Rahu energy in it. But if you were to look at the moon through through some other tree, would that change the quality of the information you would get? So say you were to look at that moon through like a people tree or whatnot, is that going to improve things? Worthwhile thinking about. So is it possible that there is a way to filter the light from the heavens, as it's called, through these plants and so forth? It's a very, very fascinating idea to think about. So it's one of those interesting ideas, because of which I feel these natives will be drawn towards herbs, knowledge of herbs, trees, plants, and so forth, very, very naturally. They might even know intuitive herbs and so forth very easily. Used to be, when you would, all these old shamans and so forth, when they would work with the herb, they would actually interact with the herb, understand what the herb is about, and only then they would actually pick at the herb that was energetically suited to that and all that. So these natives might have this natural energetic connection to the world, which is quite intuitive, which could be quite shocking to other people. How can you even say that? How this doesn't make sense? So that kind of thing you'll begin to see a lot. And many times, good chance that they are probably carrying information from the other lokas, and probably their past life samskaras, sadhana, and so forth coming through also. So let's see. Now, I think there was also one omen which I missed, which was this idea which EUG mentioned slightly earlier, which was this, you can actually purify your lymphatic system and all that, which she mentioned with the five Tibetan rites and so forth, actually, which was very interesting, actually. I thought, so these natives do have some karma to purify. These natives will have to go through a purification karma also, just like Ashlesha Nakshatra. But the ending point of that purifying that karma, and because of which they are impatient also to purify that karma. And one thing I like to say is that Ashwini Nakshatra natives can conquer the world if they are patient. And I cannot say this enough. They will want it right now. They want to attain, they want to become CEO right now. They want to attain everything right now. That's a real problem within natives. But if you are patient, you see they can actually conquer the world. And you see that particular aspect also as you're because they are good at executing things. They are excellent at executive tasks. They are excellent project managers, excellent healers, excellent handling large groups of people. Leadership is inborn in their blood within them, but they should be patient with themselves. And that's what I have actually. And one final thing also I'll say is that I did mention karma siblings, and they have a default family karma. From a Pai Padhiti perspective, sun gets exalted in first house. It has its Mool Trikona in fifth house, so they will have a natural pride within their children. Sun gets debilitated in the seventh house, so sometimes marriage can have some challenges, as EUG mentioned. So some kind of control issues and so forth can happen just because from Libra is actually having sun getting debilitated there. So in some cases, there was someone was telling, in some cases, these natives have 2 wives or 2 husbands kind of thing also. So that kind of thing can happen. So it could be like, they might have 2 girlfriends, 2 boyfriends, but all right, this day and age, that can happen. That kind of karma can happen. Now, other aspect is that because Mars is also linked there. So Mars is having its Mula Trikona in Aries. Mars is getting exalted in the 10th house from Aries as the Lagna, which means they can be quite efficient in what they're doing and all that. And Mars is finally, though, getting debilitated in the 4th house. So one way or the other, they will have this default karma with family, with their siblings, with land, vehicles, and so forth. That'll be a default karma that they'll have to learn with. And usually I encourage these natives to make sure they are focusing on their career no matter what, to improve their family karma. They focus on their career, their family karma improves by themselves actually. And to work out regularly. Ashwini Nakshatra natives have warrior blood, so you are feeling you carry warrior blood, you are in a trader's profession, it just won't work out for you. You might have to do warrior things actually. You might have to work out, you might have to start working, go to the gym, get some side hobby like play football or whatever, right? That kind of thing actually, or do the martial arts. Now I think so Tibetan rites of purification, and in terms of opening a nadi and all that, all these energetic martial arts like Tai Chi, Bagua, and Shingi and all that is very, very powerful for these natives. And I cannot say that enough actually. And of course, yoga also. If you do yoga in which you're purifying your nadis, you're opening up your nadis and so forth, extremely powerful way for Ashwini Nakshatra native to actually feel calm eventually, because they have to recognize their blood is kind of boiling. So usually you know that if you have family members who are in the army, family members who are in the police, or most likely they are all engineers, you need to have that directing. So you cannot, these natives need to recognize that energy which they carry, and need to recognize that they have more energy which they can give to the world also. So that's one big thing I would like to say. And they have to be willing to do the work. Don't be impatient about it. And you'll see a lot of things coming their way in a very powerful, miraculous fashion. And this I've seen miraculous healing happen in many cases. So miraculous healing is literally an Ashwini Nakshatra theme, especially if they have a blessing of Ashwini Kumar, if they have a good graha in Ashwini Nakshatra and so forth. Without doubt, I've seen the healing that is supposed to take like 6 months, 1 year and all that happening within a month, or the deterioration which is expected not happening for them. 80 women who are like 70-year-old looking exactly like a 35-year-old, all that just because they are doing everyday Surya Namaskar and all that. Now Surya Namaskar is a very powerful exercise for this native, because Sun is getting exalted here. Mars is the exercise planet, so Sun is exalted, Mars Multrikon. Surya Namaskar is the perfect default thing. If you do that every day, your youthfulness at least will be guaranteed. So Ashwini Nakshatra energies can be invited also into your life when you do that regularly also. Okay, great. So this is what I have. Anything to add, or any comments or anything?
Santhip ji, there's a lot there. Actually, when you were talking about the sounds and the opposite with Tula Rashi, like Chitra, I was just thinking when I had mentioned earlier, I think the Evil Knievel's chart, I remembered I've seen it before. And the fascinating thing about it is it's all Libra, so Tula Rashi. I don't think there's Ashwini. Actually, I believe it's Chitra. If I remember right, people can look it up. But I was just thinking about those plays of opposites, how they'll happen, where the person will have one or the other to be directly across from the other one. I believe it's an Ashlesha moon in this case. Ashlesha can be quite willing to take risks too. In some of these cases.
That's a good point, Yuji, because I want to say 2 more nakshatras which are linked with Ashwini is Ashlesha and Dhanishta for sure, because Mars is getting debilitated one place, Mars is getting exalted in another place. And of course, in Chitra also for sure, as you mentioned, it's exactly opposite Ashwini Nakshatra. So of course, Ashwini has to, the planets are aspecting Ashwini Nakshatra point.
Yes,
exactly.
and those Kendras, they get points. They're very, they do share some qualities.
Yeah, exactly correct.
So I just remembered that, when you said that, I think that's a really good thing for people to continuously look at are the polar opposite. Yeah. Good, guys.
And very interesting that Santhip also talked about Hamsa. Now, there is a very popular breathing technique called Soham. Have you heard of the Soham breathing technique, which is when you say so, you have to breathe, inhale, and through the spine, and hum, you breathe out. So that kind of meditation is also very good for this nakshatra because of its connection with prana devata. As we said, the Ashwini Kumaras represent the apana and the udana vayu, prana vayus, and Saraswati, which he mentions, she's the samana vayu. Samana means the equalizing breath. So she brings in, so we can say If the Ashwini Kumaras are the Ida and the Pingala, she becomes the Shishumna. Similarly, we say the rivers also in India. If you go to Ganga and you take a holy dip, the Ida Nadi is going to be active when you take the dip. And Yamuna is the Pingala Nadi. And Saraswati, which is the invisible one, which is the Sushumna Nadi. So when you go to Prayagraj, which is Allahabad. Yeah, go ahead, AG.
These texts. And no, I was just saying it mentions exactly that in some of these texts, Saraswati being Sushumna Nadi, nothing other than that. And they are actually making the reference to these rivers and this and that.
So they are the
it's exactly the,
yes.
and so that hence the miraculous healing power of the Ashwins, the two nostrils. If people really put it together, they'll understand. And why, how did Saraswati help them get their seat back? Their place back from Indra. Indra, who was possessive over the seats.
The seats, yeah, and
the body.
And the Indriyas, yes. That is very interesting to note that, and Prayagraj, where we say today, the erstwhile Allahabad, it's the three-way Sangam that we see of all the three confluence that is happening of all the three rivers. This is where all the breaths, the Udana, the Apana, and the Samana Vayu are, working together at that place. And this year, as I speak, there is Kumbh Mela, which is happening in Prayagraj. And that will, I think the whole thing will end on Mahashivratri day. So you still have another, 9 to 10 days. If you are there somewhere close by, do visit. You can go and visit the Kumbh Mela that is happening in Prayagraj, which is Allahabad. Then two more things I also wanted to add what Santhip was saying. See, the other theme that I would say with Ashwini Nakshatra and the breathing techniques that we already been discussing about, it would become more active if you go and visit People Tree, which is called as Ashwatta. Why it was called Ashwatta? Vata means, this nakshatra is a very Vata nakshatra. Vata is about the air, right? Ashwata was the horses. They could run for hours together, and when they get tired, they were yoked under this tree, because this is one of the very few trees which gives oxygen 24/7. So if you just yoke the horses under the Ashwata tree overnight, the next morning they are fresh again, because they have a lot of oxygen that they are breathing from the tree. So the next morning they're again active to run for another full day, 8 hours or 10 hours of, they can. So that's how this tree was called as Ashwata, which means it was giving Vata to other Ashwas. This nakshatra is also said to be the birth star of Ashwatthama, who is the son of Dronacharya. Now, very interesting. We talk about Dronacharya, and today we talk about drones. So unmanned aerial vehicles also will have a connection with the Ashwini Kumaras. These where they had their, what do you call those flying, saucers, and the flying vehicles that they had. The three-wheeled chariots that they went in the sky. So you can see UAVs, which is unmanned aerial vehicles, Drona and Dronacharya. Maybe he invented a lot of these things, who knows? And that's why the word drones come from Dronacharya. Anyway, but he is the father of Ashwatthama, and he's born with the Ashwini Nakshatra. That's why he's been given the name Ashwatthama. Okay. So yeah, these were some of my observations that I wanted to add to whatever you people have been speaking about.
Yeah, Dr. Pai, I want to add on the drone part, which is interesting, because that definitely does play out in terms of going with heights, and nowadays you can get this mountain top view with drones and so forth. That's great actually. Now the other aspect which I want to highlight is same thing, of course. So birds, usually I've seen these natives might have a fascination with getting feathers of birds and so forth. So there is a feather karma also you can get, like eagle feathers are sometimes good, vulture feathers are bad, or crow feathers are bad. Sometimes that kind of karma you can see actually. Now that's very interesting, because if you look at the air as the mental thought realm, and then you see an eagle, it is supposed to be very auspicious actually. So it means that you are going to have a divine thought and so forth. Whereas if you see a crow passing by, this is pointing to you might have a more problematic thought or whatnot also. So parrot you might have an intelligent thought or a fun thought and so forth. So that that is a very interesting thing with regard to birds also. And of course, the feathers of those birds can also be activating that same karma actually. So having the divine thought all the time. Many of these Native American shaman, the chiefs and so forth, they'll be having eagle feathers all along their things. You can see that. So that's a very interesting thing. And one thing I forgot about mentioning is also the idea how sun. So sun is actually getting exalted here, and Rahu is about to enter into Ashwini Nakshatra soon. Like in the exact, is going to hit the exaltation point actually. So sun, in my opinion, nowadays there's a new economy kind of thing that's building up, which is the hydrogen economy actually. So sun, if you look at sun is basically hydrogen and water, right? So hydrogen is predominant element there in sun actually. So hydrogen can represent a very powerful future for these natives. And I've seen natives going towards all the sun-related business, like going to solar, wanting to have solar panels in their home, wanting to have sun thing and all that. And now hydrogen is a very powerful thing in many other ways. So like you have nowadays cars can be converted to hydrogen. In the future, there's a good chance that hydrogen might be replacing the fossil fuel also, to be frank. Think about Ashwini, think about transportation, think about sun getting exalted here, and sun is actually having hydrogen fusion thing going on within actually. And more importantly, you can see there is one more thing which I thought was very fascinating with regard to hydrogen, because you can actually get something called as hydrogenated water, which is actually supposed to be very helpful to help increase your healing potential, better than even normal water, which might be water, right? So all that thing is not great actually, artificial water, but hydrogenated water is supposed to energize you. So that is something I've been encouraging. I think there might be some potential with looking into hydrogen water also to enhance your own health. So that is a very interesting thing which I left out, but that is also one of the points I want to add. But yeah. Okay, great. Anything else? Anyone else would like to add? Any concluding thoughts, UG, Dr. Pai, Aditya, and all that? Go ahead.
Is this a world record?
We never mentioned anything about prankster, you know.
The sense of humor. That's very true.
Prankster, yeah, great prankster.
Yeah, prankster, yeah.
Mischief.
And
Mischief.
one more thing I wanted to add here. Somehow I feel intuitively in my understanding of this nakshatra, Ashwini Kumaras are primarily the energies of Mitra and Varuna, Maitra Varuna, because they are, like a dimorphic pair. You see, they're called as Devata Dwandwas as well. They're always referred to together. So Mitra is, the Vedic solar principle, the sovereign principle of day, and Varuna is the sovereign principle of the night. He's called the son of the night. So you see the principles of Mitra and Varuna playing very strongly with the Ashwini twins, because that's the same thing. It's the same principle which has been given in the Rig Veda, where you see even the Ashwini Kumaras have been given a lot of hymns, and Mitra Varuna also. So this whole duality principle has been there even from the Rig Vedic times. That's another thing I wanted to add here.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, this is definitely a world record. Well, not as bad as a record though. Aditya, how long did we go?
Took like around 3.5 hours.
That's not bad, right? So I think we are not.
We reduced probably. We are behaving.
Yeah. So that's what you have. Dr. Pai, any concluding remarks? Good, yeah.
No, I think it was a great session. I learned a lot. Whenever I come to these sessions, just sitting here is so blissful, and to absorb. It feels like you're going to a Gurukul. With each of all of you sharing, it becomes so enriching. It's for me. I look forward for such classes and lessons, because I learn and relearn. The more I go and revisit these, my passion to teach is because I want to get better at understanding them. And the best way to be sharing information and knowledge is to go and sit in such sessions, because you can just sit there and you can get lost. That is how I feel being here. So I feel very much like a student, like EFG is saying. So I'm very grateful for this association that we have been having, and for maybe we can carry on this for a few more years, as long as we finish our series. But every time we come, I think we come with more information from what we have learned in the past. So it's so wonderful to be part of this community. So grateful to all of you and grateful to all our viewers as well, because until they give us the encouragement, we don't feel the inspiration to come and keep sharing. So thank you guys, all of the viewers as well, all of you for making this happen.
One more thing I just remembered
Yeah.
Thank you.
was about destroying the venom of snake.
Mhm.
You need horse, correct? Horse blood or
Yeah,
something?
that's true, right? Yeah, horse something. Yeah, or something.
Now,
It's called serum. The horse is injected with the poison, and it creates the antidote, yeah, the antibiotics, yeah.
you see in astrology, mostly Rohini and Mrigashira snake nakshatras coming
Right.
in the second house from Ashwini. Second house is also Maraka.
That's right.
So and it's 212 relationship, with Ashwini and Rohini Mrigashira, which are snake nakshatras, Maraka. So horse as Maraka, or horse is the 12th, basically. If you put Ashwini in the first house, second house is occupied by Rohini and Mrigashira.
Yeah.
So definitely an anti thing for snakes, and horse exists there too. Again, which we discuss a lot in Shatabisha about horse, but this can be same put here too, because that's also horse here, also
It's
it's
a
horse.
really interesting point, actually. I didn't even know that. So horse blood is used for, okay, interesting.
This is called as a serum. What is a serum is like how you have homeopathy, we take small strains of the snake venom is put into the body of the horses, and the horse produces, so what is a serum? A serum is like an advanced form of a vaccine. What happens with the vaccine? The body goes into your body, and your body develops the antibodies based on the vaccine, right? So serum is more of a ready-made. You are taking an external animal to create the antibodies, and then you are giving it instantly so that your body is getting rid of that poison. That is
Very
what a
interesting.
serum.
Its effect on Ashlesha then.
Yeah,
Because
that's right.
Ashlesha really is the one that has the Shakti of poison.
Yeah, so you can
It's
see
his actual power to do. Yeah.
because Mars gets depleted in Ashlesha, Multragon is falling in Ashwini, so makes perfect sense in that way. Why a horse would be used.
Ashlesha is also paramitra for this nakshatra.
So yeah, Paramitra. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because medicines poisons are often very much the same, depending on.
Ashlesha is also some medicine nakshatra again, and this also Ashwini. These are the doctors basically. So definitely 1 and 4,
Yeah.
and it's 1 and 4 relation.
Yes.
First Ashwini, fourth houses.
Yeah.
So I think doctors will find their home in medicine in Ashlesha.
Right.
There's another thing. There's
Yeah.
another thing I wanted you, I know everybody to look at it. I've also seen Ashwini and all the Laghu and Shipra nakshatras. These are people who have fascination to learn yoga, to levitate, which means the vidya to levitate, or they will be fascinated with it. At least they will try to go to different people to learn how to levitate.
Yeah.
So levitation can be, because it's a very light, and a laghu means which can lift you up. So levitation and siddhis, they want to get these siddhis.
Yeah. So levitation definitely, the levitation definitely you see that. Also immortality, focus on immortality. I want to live forever. That kind of thing is also an Ashwini thing. But the challenge, other side of Ashwini, right? So other side of Ashwini in which you want to live forever, that kind of aspect. And levitation is also a lot of Chinese martial arts, right? So you see kung fu movies in which the masters are.
A lot of the films, the martial arts are like in the sky.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so
that's the reason why Hanuman is immortal.
Yeah, Hanuman is levitating, right? Probably.
Hanuman is immortal.
Yeah, exactly. So there is also one more thing which I think was interesting. I mentioned in one of these classes we taught, in which how if you look at supposedly the immortality thing is interesting because there are these cells which are formed, which Dr. Pai mentioned when the fertilization happens. The initial set of cells is like are the stem cells actually, and after the stem cells are formed, everything else is stem cells become many things. So stem cell based therapies and so forth, you might see they are having a lot of depth, a lot more opportunities, a lot of healing things and so forth. So I'm inclined to say stem cell therapies and all that will also be very interesting. Probably it could work also for these natives. So that might also be interesting to see that front. And probably stem cells might be holding some key to immortality also. Perhaps we might have stem cells which we could stimulate through our own yogi practice and so forth, So then we might end up being immortal in the future. So God knows if that is true, but where happens, great.
But yeah, any rejuvenative therapy actually would be under Ashwin's.
Yeah, also the
in this
regenerative
way.
therapy. I've seen this red light therapy. You find these Instagram ads for this red light therapy and all that, red light devices which can improve your health and all that. So it is interesting actually. So why is it red also?
Infrared
right?
sun.
Infrared, yeah, infrared.
Yes, exactly.
Also, like some people get the green light and all that, or someone was advertising that. So green light therapy to improve some rejuvenation and all that. So what Dr. Pai was mentioning about light therapy and all that, it could be a big thing for it. Could be a real thing also. It might be improving health and healing and all that actually. So that'll be interesting for sure. Yeah.
Also, another interesting point is anybody who plays a game of chess, look at the black horse and the white horse. Maybe they are the Ashwini twins.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine you're playing the game and you are constantly, your horse is going and killing the other person's horse. Then Ashwini is getting stronger. No, I'm just.
That's why it's such an interesting nakshatra, because really you do have this, you have this healer, but then you also have the senapati. And you have the person who's leading the army. The person who's amputating and the person who's chopping off. So could be some interesting karmic exchange there. The person who injures a lot of people in war, next life they have to be a doctor.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think even the Yuji mentioned She Guevara, so Che sound is actually in Ashwini. Even the sound of chess, Che sound is also in Ashwini. So chess had to have horses, right? You could say that. So that
think about chi. Speaking of martial arts, chi.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Chi I think is Revati, but
only horses in chess, are going in a right angle. You see,
That's
no
correct.
other, like even the camel or even the elephant.
That is a very unique move that the queen cannot move in L shape in the game of chess. Only the horse has that unique move of moving in the form of a L.
So it's a Mars triangle.
Yeah, Mars triangle. Yeah.
Like a triangle.
We're going in chess now, guys.
Yeah, but it's Mars triangle.
We better close.
I think we should stop recording and then we can go with our banter. Otherwise, people.
Right.
From Ashwini
astrology to chess and all.
We're going into chess. Togi
But
is
that's what
exactly.
triangle, that is what triangle it is. The Mars basically.
Yeah.
Now I can think about Pythagoras.
So, but if you really think about it, if the ancients with just a triangle in the sky could see a horse in it, why can't we see so many things? It's just 3 stars, right? The Aries is just 3 stars, and it's like a triangle. Where's the horse in that? You could say it is a rat also. But if they could see a horse there in the sky, so yeah, we are seeing so many.
Yeah. Well, I think anyway, it is great. We talked a lot of topics. I think we can end the session. So thank you for everyone.
We should start a series, chess astrology. Maybe
chess astrology and all that. Yeah.
Next time we should just do chess, only chess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Namaste everyone. Thank you all the viewers who are patient to this point. Okay, great. Namaste.